Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting for 9 a.m. Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this time is citizen input, and we just heard from someone wanting to testify on the matter for 1 o'clock today. So we do have a public hearing set to consider the proposal for Deschutes County Code prohibitions on camping. So I would like to respect the fact that there is an open public hearing at 1 o'clock, and that's when the topic will be happening. So I do have one request to speak here, and anybody else in the room, please fill out a blue form if you'd like to share input, and then also online, please use the raise hand feature. So Mr. Carl Shoemaker.
Public service announcement. Parental advisory. Parents, prepare your children. That's a solid piece of hardware right there. That'll protect your children's skull in case of an accident. I worked for a man up in Portland. He was blind for the rest of his life. He was living in a group home for the rest of his life. You do not want to live in a group home for the rest of your life. He had been in a motorcycle accident. He was not wearing a helmet. The doctor that operated on him talked about picking eggshell fractures from his skull out of his brain to save his life, and little slivers of skull over and over. Parents, you do not want your child to live in a group home for the rest of their life. You do not want to go through that. You do not want your families to go through that. Every single time they get on an e-bike, you make them wear a helmet, no matter how much they complain. End of public service announcement. Return to regular scheduled programming. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the public service announcement about wearing helmets. Absolutely. I don't see anybody else in the room. So Mr. Ron Williams, I see a raise hand feature.
Good morning.
Please join us.
Good morning. Trying to go, not sure that you can see me.
We do have audio at this time.
I can just go ahead.
Yes,
Not
please.
really. So good morning. My name is Ron Williams. Good morning, Chair DeBone and members of the Deschutes County Commission. My name is Ron Williams. I'm the Director of Outreach for the Health Justice Recovery Alliance, a statewide advocacy organization that is making sure that Measure 110 is implemented as the voters intended. I'm here today to give you an update on Measure 110 and how the law is unfolding. This is an exciting time for Measure 110. 2023 is the year that Measure 110 is finally getting its firm footing. New data released in June by the Oregon Health Authority reveals that there's a dramatic increase in the number of people receiving addiction-funded services. Tens of millions of dollars are being directed away from the expensive criminal justice system to fund evidence-based addiction treatment. Lives are being saved. Families are becoming more stable, and communities in every county now have access to new services that were not available before. Oregon is finally starting to see progress in addressing the root cause of addiction, and at the same time, taking concrete steps to improve the law. In June, the state legislature passed House Bill 2513, the Hope and Recovery Act. The governor has signed the bill into law. This legislation matters because not only keeps our state's commitment to increase the availability of free local services for people struggling with substance abuse, but also provides increased oversight and accountability, more timely distribution of funding, and redoubling the implementation of proven public health approaches to addiction services and treatment to make Measure 110 more effective, transparent, and accountable. Last month, the Oregon Health Authority released data, and you can find all this on their website, a new report on the number of Oregonians across the state who have received services through Measure 110. The number of people seeking substance use treatment through Measure 110 increased 44%. People who were provided housing and recovery housing increased more than 125%. Oregon's public health response to addiction gives us a tool that no other state in the country has in fighting the nationwide addiction crisis. Measure 110 addresses not only the act of addiction itself, but the root causes of addiction. Every state in the country is dealing with the addiction crisis, and all major cities are suffering. Oregon is no different, except that we have this unique tool to treat addiction through a public health approach. Addiction is not a crime, it is an illness, and it's time to treat it as such. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on this critical issue in our community. And we would be happy to facilitate tours to local providers and facilities. And thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Mr. Williams, thank you very much for your testimony. And please send an email to board@deschutes.org introducing yourself, and maybe we can make some better connections here also.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, consent agenda. Few items with a couple sets of minutes.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. So one note, items 6 and 7 are going to be switched in order because one feeds into the other. So that'll be next few agenda items. So at this time, item number 5, agreements for vehicle leases for the Houston Sheriff's Office. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, I'm Joe Brundage for the Sheriff's Office. Hi, Commissioners, I'm Pete Martin, Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, I'm Lieutenant Ty Rupert with the Sheriff's Office.
I see the agenda item talks about Pete Garrison, but I think it was Paul Garrison and a few more. So, yep, no, not a problem. Just mixed them up. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Just introduction to the vehicles and the concept of this lease, I guess, is the thought for today.
And these are two vehicles, unrelated, but have very similar leases, roughly $320,000, $80,000 a year. The first one is for a Gurkha, an armored vehicle for our SWAT team. And Pete can give you, if you have any questions about the vehicles.
Well, the concept is this is replacing an existing vehicle, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we have one similar to this already that we currently lease. This would be a second one that's replacing older vehicles in the fleet, an older armored truck that we actually have on loan to us through the LESO program. And the concern is that it's on loan and the government can take it back at any time. And we want to have something in our possession that we can keep to still do our job.
All right. And then that second, piston bully.
Piston bully is a snowcat for our search and rescue. Can talk about that.
Thank you. The snowcat, it is a snowcat. Without the capabilities of what one would think is typically a snowcat. It doesn't have grooming capabilities like you would see in Mount Bachelor. We refer to it as a TRV or a track rescue vehicle. You can think of it as an ambulance on tracks. And it would be coming into our fleet. I oversee our search and rescue unit. It would be coming into our fleet to not replace. We have a current track vehicle that's very small and incapable of getting into certain areas in the backcountry that we need to get into to rescue people. I brought some information here if you want to look at it so you could see it while I was talking about it.
Sure, if you want to hand that out real quick. So we have some stuff about the armored vehicle.
And
So
this
this is
the vehicle-
winter. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is a vehicle that can hold 10 people then?
Yes, ma'am. 8 to 10.
Great. So next size tracked vehicle, winter operations. Just for winter, basically, could be in the
Yes.
tracked vehicle.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yep.
sir. It's for winter. So the first, on the front page here, you'll see where it says Piston Bully, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. So that talks about the Piston Bully. It talks about the company, the availability for parts. And then if you scroll through there, you'll get a better idea what it looks like. Where it has the 8-person cab on the back, and then you have an operator and a second operator in the front. So we can carry up to 10 people along with gear and equipment to get into the backcountry areas that we need to.
Yeah.
This year, we had 2 unfortunate incidents. We had 2 avalanches that each claimed a life. I'll talk about the first one, which was the Black Crater. For me to get a team in there, required that I sent 4 or 5 different teams at separate times. And the way that they have to get there is by snowmobile. On a snowmobile, I can only carry 1 person on the type of sleds that we need to get into the backcountry. It's known as a mountain sled. I'm limited in the fact that I cannot carry equipment on there other than what they can put in their pack, which is very limited. In this instance, we ended up, one of the engines failed on one of the snowmobiles because it overheated due to some of the equipment that we had on the tunnel of it on the back. The other liability I have with snowmobiles is I send 9 or 10 snowmobiles in, and that's 9 or 10 possibilities for our SAR members that are volunteers to be injured. We do have accidents with the snowmobiles where they get injured. What the Piston Bully does is it replaces the fact that I have to send 9 or 10 snowmobiles in at one time. I can put all of my rescue people in one cab. It's a heated cab. It's outfitted or would be outfitted to where we can do patient care inside the cab, just like you would in an ambulance. While we're working like in the Black Crater, our members from SAR had to, there's about 1,000 feet down inside or from the top of the crater. They had to go about 1,000 feet down to do the recovery. While they're doing that, our folks at the top are inside of a nylon tent in these conditions as assisting versus the Piston Bully that has a heated cabin. So it gives them an area that they can operate out of also that's safer for them, warm. So you'll see in the Piston Bully brochure, you go towards second page to the last. You'll see inside the rear cabin, they have a gurney in there. That's where we could seat our medics so they could work on a patient. That's also, like I said, where our SAR members would ride in. And then on the outside of the Piston Bully, we've made provisions or talked about provisions of that we can put gear on the outside of it to get our gear in.
Mhm.
We also have a sled that's called a people mover. And I have the ability to strap equipment onto that I could tow behind the Piston Bully. So I can put the equipment on that sled, which I currently have, and I can put the people in here. Pete and I we did a lot of research into this before we presented the offer of moving forward. We flew to San Bernardino, California and met with the fire department down there. They have 9 of these. And if you look at the snowstorms that they had down there this year, where they had 8 to 10 feet of snow, they had houses that were completely covered. They were exploding. So the Piston Bullies gave them the ability to reach those families that needed that assistance to be able to move them out of there safely. So yeah, you think of San Bernardino, you wouldn't think they would have 9 Piston Bullies, but they do. We don't have any. And as you know, we're a high recreation area. We're one of the busiest search and rescue units in the state, given our country that we're in. The cost of a lift ticket now is about $180. And I think moving forward, we're going to see more people doing backcountry sports because of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So this is just equipment that I'm asking for. It's safer for my team. It's a better transport for the community or the patient. Right now, if you look at the other brochure or the other pages I gave you, the current track vehicle that we have, I can only seat 2, maybe 3 people in the front. And there's hardly any room in the back for a gear if you thumb through here. The other problem with this is it requires a tremendous amount of maintenance. So every time it goes out, because it's all ran by chain, it has to go to the shop to do maintenance before it can be ready for the next mission. It's narrow, and so it tends to fall into the tracks that vehicles have made. And then on the third page in there, you'll see the.
I don't
blue-
know. Oh, do you have that?
That's this picture. This
Yeah.
is the existing.
Yes, sir. That's currently what we have. If you go to the third picture, you'll see this blue, this is the cement that I currently have. And this is what we call an ambulance sled. So I can fit 1 patient in there and a medic. But the quarters are so tight in there, it's hard for the medic to even work on the patient, not counting the fact that they're getting bounced around. And usually when my medics come back, they're bruised up.
Yeah.
because of the riding back there.
So it'd be better for supplies and yeah,
Absolutely.
got it.
Absolutely.
I guess, one of my questions about this is, did you say that the lease cost would be $80,000 per year for these vehicles? I definitely appreciate the improved functionality. You mentioned Mount Bachelor. There are tracked snow vehicles in the area, and I'm wondering if there's any opportunities as an alternative to have partnerships with other organizations that have tracked snow vehicles in the area. I know that Meister Nordic clubs, their piston bully might be out grooming when at the moment when you need it. But and that would probably impact response time. But just given that there is other equipment similar to this in the region already, is that a conceivable way of covering our need for this kind of vehicle support when an emergency arises?
And sir, that's a very fair question, and it's absolutely one that I looked at. The problem with those is they're only equipped for 2 people. They don't have the rear cabin on the back like this one does. So I would only be able to have an operator and 1 passenger. So I wouldn't be able to get all the necessary people that I need to a scene. The other side of that is a lot of those. So this piston bully is called a PB100. It's the smallest one that we could go with that would still be able to be trailered to wherever we have to go. So it gives me the portability where some of these others, they have the grooming equipment on the back that would have to be detached. And I don't know what their abilities are to trailer that equipment. So this one would all be, as you know, when we're talking about lives, we're talking about time.
Yeah.
So this would be on a trailer stage, just like our snowmobiles and our first out medics are now. So our response time will be significantly reduced. It does have a blade on the front. That's part of the advantage of this vehicle, is that it can create its own path to where my Argo vehicle, which is the other tracked vehicle that we currently have, can follow behind if I need to get more people.
Mhm.
I don't plan on selling the Argo because I can get a few people in there, but it just won't go in the deep snow like the piston bully will. But your question is absolutely fair. It is something that I thought about. But when I look at response time is critical when we're talking about lives. And us having that equipment ready. Most of our SAR members, our medics, live on the west side of town. They can be to our office within 15 to 20 minutes and they're deployed out. If I have to rely on somebody else, I may or may not be able to get a hold of them. I can't expect them to be on call. And as you know, we're 24/7, 365.
Great. So it's all about response time at that, and where you need to go, because it could be anywhere.
Yes, sir.
Understood. Thank you. So yeah, thanks for presenting today. Are there any other
have a comment.
questions? Or please.
I had Lori Smith and Risk Management read through the lease, and the county is responsible for the equipment. So she'll reach out to get it on our property schedule. We self-insure vehicles like the regular vehicles, but the higher cost equipment, including a lot of equipment out at not landfill, we put on our property schedule. So based on the the cost of this equipment, we want to do the same. So Lori will reach out to you.
Good point.
Can I-
Great.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure, please.
I forgot. Also on the piston bully, the service life of this vehicle is expected to be between 20 and 25 years or 10,000 hours from the manufacturer. And so given we had 55 missions last year, an average duration of each mission is 5 hours and 18 minutes. So I expect that we will see at least 20 years of service life out of this vehicle. So when I break up the cost of that vehicle over 20 years, it's approximately $13,000 a year. But anyway, that was one of the other things that we wanted. I didn't want a piece of equipment that's only going to last for a short amount of time because it is a large purchase. So we tried to do our due diligence and make sure we have something that will last the county for an extended period of time.
So there's a lease. How long is this lease term?
This lease is a 5-year lease.
Yeah.
So
With
it's
probably the expectation of maybe purchasing it afterwards is what we're doing.
at the
Yeah.
end of 5 years, either we can turn the vehicle in and continue to lease another new one, or it actually belongs to us. There's no payout.
Oh, okay.
So
So
at the end of 5 years, and this is in our current budget, both of these for this payment with approval.
So they're both leased to own at the end of the term.
They are. Yep.
Okay, good. Good to understand.
At the end of 5 years.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't pick that up from the.
Yeah, I didn't either.
The write-up.
Good to know.
Understand.
Yeah. So instead of making the one large purchase, we're just trying to spread that out and actually decide, especially with the armored truck, to decide that's the vehicle we want to keep with.
Mm-hmm.
The lease was a better option. So that way the county didn't have to incur a large cost at one time if we broke it up over the five years.
Right.
So with no residual at the end.
Is the 80,000 going to cover both payments?
That's each.
Each payment is 80,000. Okay,
Each vehicle.
for 5 years.
Yep.
60 payments. All right. Thanks.
Just, yeah, annual payment.
Annual payment. Of
Oh, it's annual. It's
Yeah.
not.
One annual payment.
Okay.
Good. Well, good. to
Just for
understand.
reference, if you bought these vehicles outright, what would the price difference be between?
So the armored truck is $380,000. And the tracked vehicle is $344,000.
So you're only paying a little premium to be able to lease.
Yes. This lease is, it's through the Bank Corp, who deals with municipalities and government. So we have a really good rate with them.
Well, thank you for the discussion. Is there a motion? We'll put it into two parts and we can just say Captain Garrison.
I move to authorize Captain Paul Garrison
There you go.
to sign document number 2023-705, a lease agreement with Bancorp for a Teradyne Gurkha MPV armored truck.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes.
And I'll move to authorize Captain Paul Garrison to sign document number 2023-706, a lease agreement with Bancorp for a 2023 Piston Bully 100 tracked rescue vehicle.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Some nice equipment coming, especially that wintertime rescues. I can see the response time is going to be very important there.
Thank you, commissioners. I really appreciate it. And I invite you, when we get this, I invite you to come look at it so we can show you how it operates.
Oh, I thought you were going to take us for a ride. Okay.
In the dead of winter.
Do you expect to get it right away? I mean,
Pete.
is the ETA soon?
Yes, we actually are hoping to get this in November.
November.
Oh, yep, good.
Okay.
And the armored truck as well in November.
Maybe we could tag along for a practice drive.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay,
you,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
But this time, as I say, we're going to change the agenda just a little bit because one feeds into the other. So item number 7, memorandum of understanding between solid waste and community development for code abatement funding. Good morning. Here we go.
Good morning, Commissioner Sherry Pinner for Community Development.
And Tim Brownell with solid waste.
So CDD and solid waste has an agreement, memorandum of understanding that I believe was in effect since 2008 for code compliance staff of CDD to implement solid waste code for solid waste department. And we also, the county has an abatement fund in the event that any of the properties need to be abated. There's not necessarily a revenue source for the abatement fund. And in the past, we've only actually abated one property in 2006. And at that time, CDD and solid waste collectively loaned money to the abatement fund. The property was abated, liened, and sold, and we repaid solid waste and CDD. And that the remaining funds for those from that particular abatement has been really the only revenue source and interest. And what we're seeing now in our code compliance division and the array of complaints that we have is that we believe that we're moving forward towards more abatement properties. And so we collectively worked with solid waste to come up with a plan on how to fund this particular fund. And I believe I'll let Tim explain the tipping fee increase and how that works.
Sure. And if you'll remember, we were here in June discussing increasing the franchise fee, which is a fee that is charged to the ratepayers, but paid by the franchise holders back to the county. And we increased that franchise fee from 3% to 5%. There was a public hearing and that was approved. So that's effective July 1st. That's expected to bring in approximately $240,000. The intention of that increase was to provide this funding to CDD for this activity, code abatement.
Great. So this MOU is the opportunity to put the agreement in place to transfer those funds.
That's correct.
Solid waste is an enterprise fund, so the income and expenses are all kind of in their own balance sheet. So this is just, and we did acknowledge it during our budget process, making sure there's just that little extra to be able to pay for removal of solid waste when we really have some bad situations out there. Any thoughts or questions?
I'd just say I think this is a very exciting interdepartmental partnership, providing opportunities for both community development to achieve code compliance on these properties that are having some real problems out in the county, and for solid waste to achieve its goals of addressing a proper disposal of solid waste throughout the county. And so thank you for setting this all up and doing that interdepartmental coordination.
So Tim, what you just said is you actually are hoping to bring in 240,000 more because of that rate increase, but you're transferring 200,000.
Yeah, we're anticipating that's what this change in the franchise fee will generate. Again, it depends on service levels, the level of economy. So that's what we anticipated to provide.
Thank you.
Yep.
So is there a motion?
Move approval of board signature of document number 2023-643, a memorandum of understanding between the solid waste and community development departments for code abatement funding.
Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. And so following that, item number 6, going backwards a little bit here today. So public hearing consideration of a resolution. So this is a resolution adopting supplemental budget and increasing appropriations within the solid waste and code abatement funds and the 2023-24 Deschutes County budget. So yeah, there we go.
Morning, Commissioner. Good morning, Commissioners. Dan Emerson, Budget and Financial Planning Manager. I think Tim and Sherry spoke well to that. This is an increase based on the franchise fee. They're going to be receiving $240,000 in solid waste and transferring $200,000 over to code abatement. Public hearing because regarding Oregon budget law, code abatement's a super small fund, so this increases their appropriations by more than 10% for supplemental.
So we just passed and completed our annual budget process. So this is a slight adjustment to it, acknowledging that we did discuss it and basically approve it as part of the annual budget. Now the MOU is in place. So at this time, this is a public hearing on the matter of increasing appropriations within the solid waste and code abatement funds by more than 10% for this year's annual budget. Is there anybody here to speak on this matter? Is there anyone online? Okay, so seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Is there any discussion or a motion?
I'll move approval of resolution 2023-045, adopting a supplemental budget and increasing appropriations within the solid waste and code abatement funds and the 2023-24 Deschutes County budget.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Here we go. Dialing in our budget.
And Dan, how is everything?
We're talking about
Just,
everything is great.
He's here today. Wonderful.
yes,
Yes.
it's nice to see you today.
Yes. Yes, there's no action on my wife is almost 40 weeks pregnant right now.
There you go, getting there.
Okay, well,
Any moment.
I was expecting like bubblegum cigars or something, so
Yes, very
He
soon.
won't be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's
Again,
having
not
fun.
Here, we'll know something's
Yeah.
going.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks.
We're waiting and we're very excited about it.
Congratulations.
We'll wish
Thank you.
her our very best.
Thank you. Will do.
Okay, item number 8, consideration of a one-time appropriation to the Central Oregon Guardian Assistance Program. This is a new program. Yeah, please come join us. Dan, you can kick it off for us and welcome a couple folks for joining us.
Yeah, looks like the Central Oregon Guardian Assistance Program is here. They presented on June 26, 2023. Regarding the need for pro bono and low-cost guardian services to assist with persons experiencing a health-related crisis. Included in the population are veterans, elderly, and the civil commitment population. And so I believe they were asking for $100,000 for a one-time commitment for the startup of this new training program. There wasn't an official motion, but there was an informal support from the board. So we are back here today. We've identified general funds as the best eligible use of funds to support this program.
So yeah, let's go through with introductions real quick and then we can have a spokesman explain a little bit.
Matt Dodson, president of the board for COGAP.
Thank you.
Claudia Koch, board member, COGAP.
Nice to meet you, Claudia.
Lisa Bertalon, executive director, COGAP.
Megan Horner, I just work behind the scenes.
Molly Cogswell Kelly, same as Megan.
Behind the scenes, but you're at the front table again. So we have talked about this in a work session and there's shown of support. If one person want to explain, these are matching funds. We're getting a new effort started here. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. As we've discussed in the prior meetings, this is a great program that's been sorely needed within the community. We have a huge demand for guardianship services for those who can't afford it. We have $100,000 in support from St. Charles. And then we plan to take the $100,000 from the county and the $100,000 from St. Charles and seek matching grants from the Health Council. And we are eligible for up to $200,000 in matching grants, which would give us a combined budget of $400,000. And we think that would provide a huge amount of service within the community and really help some of those that are, kind of cycling through the same agencies and programs, but not getting the support and the services they need.
Well, and thank you very much for coming together as a board and some advocates for this to really get it started. This is implemented in other parts of the state. It is an independent nonprofit, but and as I say, we've heard in the past that once we have certified guardians, we can kind of amplify the efforts and serve multiple people. So that's pretty exciting.
And I want to thank Dan for bringing this back on the agenda as quickly as we could, because I so appreciate what you're doing, your vision and how long it's taken. And, whatever we can do to help implement it. And so you can get that matching 200,000 from the Health Council. I think that's excellent for first year.
Thank you, Commissioner Adair. We have one matching grant submitted, and as soon as I receive this in writing, I'll have the other one teed up. So we really appreciate your support. Just can't tell you enough how much we appreciate that.
Can you remind me again what your plan or your vision is for long-term operating funds sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely. So the second component that we wanted to add to the nonprofit is to create a paid fiduciary or a sliding fee scale fiduciary service where individuals who have resources, who may not have family members or friends in the community that they feel like they can appoint in various positions within their own estate planning, whether it's trustee, executor, power of attorney, those different roles. This program would also be able to provide those paid fiduciary services. And those are well-paid fiduciary services that would help us to offset. We are also seeking funding from other private foundations. We know within a year we'll be eligible for programs such as Oregon Community Foundation or similar that require us to be in existence for a minimum of a year before we can apply for funding. We think there are other national federal funding sources that we may be eligible for as well.
And there's, for people on the other end of the spectrum, there's no way that you can tap into Medicaid to support these services, is there?
Medicaid years ago, sorry to interrupt, did provide flat fee to pay for initial guardianship. So court costs, $2,000 to hire the attorney to set it up, but there was no ongoing payment after that to pay the professional guardian or provide any additional support. Regardless, it's probably been 15 years ago that the state stopped funding that part of its Medicaid program, which is what, caused a huge gap.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It's great to see everybody today. Is there a motion?
Move approval of resolution number 2023-046, increasing appropriations and transferring contingency within the general fund and the 23-24 Deschutes County budget for the purpose of appropriating $100,000 to the Central Oregon Guardian Assistance Program.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. So now it's official. You can reference our video of this if you want to get started today, or our board minutes will be published, and then the finance will help.
Great. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Item number 9, Oregon Health Authority Medicaid Administration Reimbursement.
Morning, Commissioners. This is Ann Kilty, Program Manager for Clinical and Family Services at Public Health. And we are
Okay, one moment. So we've got, we're looking for a cell phone in the room real quick. Yep. Okay, so thanks, Ann, for joining us. Please proceed.
Yeah, we are here today asking for a signature to a renewal of a document between Oregon Health Authority and Deschutes County that provides for reimbursement for Medicaid services that are provided outside of billable services that we do here in health services. This is an ongoing contract that's been in place for many years. All of my 20 years here, we've had this, and it gets renewed every 5 years. And the 5-year time is now.
Okay. So it doesn't come around all the time, but here's a
Here it is.
5-year update. Thank you very much for that. Any other thoughts or questions? I mean, this is exciting knowing that there's a good long partnership. A lot of dollars will be flowing through this thing over a period of time and getting those Medicaid dollars out for folks. Just acknowledging July 1st, 2023. So the date's passed, but it'll go for 5 years to 2028.
And do you have a sense of how many people are, after health services is providing this support, how many people are get signed up for Medicaid OHB that weren't before?
I don't have a good sense of the numbers. I can tell you that this is like a major part of what the perinatal care coordination team does. We've talked about this team frequently. They see newly pregnant individuals, they get them signed up for OHP, they coordinate their care throughout the community. So this is not just getting people signed up for Medicaid, it's coordinating their care once they're on it, and then ongoing activities that the home visiting nurses do, and some of the Medicaid assisters that we have in health services. So I don't have a good number, but it's a integral part, at least of public health.
You do have a sense of how many people receive perinatal care and support in a given year.
I do, but I don't have it on the top of my head right now.
Okay. Okay.
Spreadsheet available.
Okay. Maybe you could follow up with those numbers.
I definitely will.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Move chair signature of document number 2023-702, an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to receive Medicaid reimbursement funding.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Thank you very much. Commissioner Dare, calling for the vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Okay,
Thank you.
5-year window on that one now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, item number 10, this is 2024 Q1 discretionary grant application review. So we'll be going through a binder with some applications here, making some decisions. I just want to acknowledge that we're going to be probably doing this for about a half hour, but if you want to stay, if you're available to stay, I'd love to talk to you, before you leave, just now. Yeah, so just letting you know. Okay. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning. For the record, Stephanie Robinson, Administration. And this morning I'm here to present the applications for Deschutes County's discretionary grant program for activities taking place beginning or around the first quarter of fiscal year 2024. Each quarter, the Board of Commissioners review applications submitted to the program and makes awards accordingly. And then I just wanted to acknowledge this is the first quarterly review of the fiscal year. And as a reminder, during the video lottery allocation exercise, the board allocated $45,000 for the discretionary grant program, which is then split evenly among the 3 commissioners, and then an additional $15,000 for fundraising specific requests. So if there's not any questions, we can get started with the first application. And that is from Ben Firefighters Foundation, Ben Fire Pipes and Drums. They're requesting $1,238 to support the cost of new bagpipe reeds for all 7 pipers, plus a few spare reeds. Ben Fire Pipes and Drums is a bagpipe band made up of individuals from Ben Fire and Rescue. They play music at various ceremonies, including funeral and memorial processions, as well as various community events.
Kicking off here today.
I've seen this bagpipe group play at affordable housing openings and many other important community celebrations or commemorations. You can put me down for 500.
I'll do 500 also, Stephanie.
Okay.
Oh. Hey, wait a minute. I was going to do 400, so that even gives them more than they were looking for. Yeah.
Happy to drop down to 400 if you want.
Yeah. So yeah, 400 for me. But yeah, that's good. We'll show support. It's very impressive when they come together, and sure fills the room or the occasion, that's for sure.
Commissioner Adair, do you want to make up the 438, make up the
Sure, of
difference?
course.
There you go, odd number.
Or would they like to get a little extra? No, that's fine.
Okay. All right, the next request is from Bitter Brush Neighborhood Road Association. They're requesting $2,000 to support a multi-year project to cover the roads in their neighborhood with clean 3/4 state specification gravel. The neighborhood, which is near Sisters, has 45 total properties and 2.2 miles of road that is maintained by the road association.
So Stephanie, I know it's, the Secretary of State's document is attached and it says it's a domestic nonprofit, but a 501c3, there isn't, we don't have anything federal here.
They're just a nonprofit status. I don't think it's a 501c3 specific. There's different nonprofit.
Is this the one that said they were a 501c4?
Let me look at.
There was somebody in here that said they were a 501c3 C4, which is I thought that C4s were political action groups.
Well, and we've got a lot of rural road districts. I'm not going to be supportive of these dollars for this purpose. We just got, unmaintained rural roads all over the place. And as I say, if I'm in a spot where if I supported one, there's about 20 more that would show up asking for resources like this. So I'm not comfortable supporting this. Yeah.
Okay, they do say that they are a 501c4 on their introduction. Normally they're required to have documentation too, though. So I might save a little bit for them because I appreciate, the county, people out on the rural that are responsible for their own roads sometimes feel that it's unfortunate that Deschutes County doesn't cover those roads. So if that document can be found, it could give them something to help.
Well, our website and the road department has all kinds of information about unmaintained rural road districts and unmaintained rural roads. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm also concerned about the precedent here. I'm not supportive of contributing from the discretionary grant fund to this project. People who live out in special road districts on local access roads, it's sort of, I think of it as part of the deal that they sign up to build and maintain their own roads so that they have the opportunity to live in these places where otherwise the county is not capable of building out the county road system. So I think that the road is their responsibility.
So we can get back to that for Commissioner Dare if she'd like.
For me.
The next two requests are both from Boys and Girls Clubs of Bend. And the first one is to fund an AED for their downtown facility. The full cost is $2,388 and they're requesting $1,500 from Deschutes County for this project. The second request is for $3,000 and grant funds will provide a daily essential snack for all club members every day throughout the summer. The club provides full-time summer programming for 150 youth ages 5 to 18 at their downtown location.
So I'm supportive of $500 towards the AED purchase for myself.
I'll do 500 for the food.
Yeah, I'd like to make a contribution towards the nutrition program, but as much as I appreciate having AED machines available, it just struck me that if Boys and Girls Club is full of people under 18 years of age, with some adults, it's sort of I believe that makes it a population that is of much lower likelihood of having someone experience cardiac arrest than some other public venues or community gathering places in the community. So I'd like to put $1,000 towards the nutrition program and pass on the AED.
Okay.
So I'll put $1,000 towards AED and nothing towards nutrition. So they're kind of getting both things a little bit funded. I was going to split it to 500 each.
All right, great. The next request is from Cascades Theatrical Company. They're requesting $2,000 to support the teen theater program. This begins in October and goes until June. It's a tuition-free program. Grant funds will help cover the costs of materials, scripts, technical aspects, and printing costs.
I did notice they had a remarkable treasure.
Mhm. I'll support 500. Words are asked.
And I will too. 500.
500 for me as well, please.
The next request is from Central Oregon Film Office. They're requesting $2,500 to support travel expenses to the American Film Market Location Expo this November in Santa Monica. The expo is an opportunity to introduce filmmakers and industry professionals to the beauty of Central Oregon in hopes of attracting out-of-area production to Deschutes County for means of economic development.
I'm kind of in the $500 mode today, so I would support that. So I do support the film office. These are for discretionary expenses for this travel, so I would like to see some support. I mean, I'm offering that support.
Put me down for 250. I really appreciate that Visit Central Oregon and Visit Bend are investing in this expedition to the film, the film market location expo. I actually think that those tourism promotion organizations should be covering even more of the expense of trips like this.
And I'll do 250 also. And I just want to say last year I was working with someone through Hasbro that was doing log cabins here in Central Oregon. They were building them and they were doing a special on it. So, and I believe it did it was followed through. So it does happen.
Well, and it's real interesting having writers and actors on strike right now. So hopefully she can get the word out and set up for the future.
All right, the next request is from Education Foundation for Ben Lapine Schools. They're requesting $2,000 for activity fee support for the upcoming school year. The Education Foundation provides need-based scholarships for middle and high school age students served under the free and reduced meal program. So these at-risk students can participate in after-school athletics and activities. Specific programs include band, orchestra, choir, speech, debate, drill team, and cheerleading.
So I've always kind of started to come to the conclusion that education is just a very different track. So I'm not supportive of these dollars going to that purpose, but I'm very supportive of all these activities.
And I'll do 500.
Please put me down for 750.
All right, the next request is from Embers Wildflower Animal Sanctuary and Bunny Rescue. They're requesting $1,000 to support the purchase of a wall-mounted ductless mini split heating and cooling system for their bunny barn. Embers is the only bunny-specific rescue in Central Oregon and is always near or at capacity. This new system will provide the best living conditions for the rescue bunnies year-round.
It's interesting. I'm just appreciative that this last week we were able to put air conditioning units in the final 4 cabins at the Veterans Village. 4 of the cabins did not have AC. And with, our recent heat, I'm thinking like, okay, that's done. Thank goodness for our veterans. So for the bunnies, those air conditioning units were like $220 each. So I'll do $200 to help them.
I prefer to only support this organization through the spay and neuter grant program.
No, thank you.
The next request is from High Desert Food and Farm Alliance. They're requesting $2,314.90 to purchase 2 new computers for the organization's program director and marketing admin assistant. High Desert Food and Farm Alliance supports a healthy and thriving food and farm network in Central Oregon and helps ensure healthy food ends up on the plates of people experiencing food insecurity in our community.
I support these efforts and it's a great group. So I'll do 750 or some number to maybe help get to the total here. We'll see what happens.
500 for me, please.
Sorry.
Sorry, 500.
And I'll do 250.
I need one more zero.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine.
The next request is from Ronald McDonald House, requesting $2,000 to support the Family Table and Meals from the Heart programs, which provide meals and food to families staying at the Ronald McDonald House. These programs help ensure all Ronald McDonald House services are free of charge to families so they can focus on caring for their critically ill or injured children.
And we just did donate 1,500 to them
Yes,
last quarter. Okay.
There's but one other significant investment in the past 5 years that we didn't capture in here was the first ARPA investment that we made in Ronald McDonald House, which I believe was also $100,000. May have been more, but there was this FY23 investment, and then I believe the other one was either in 21 or early 22.
I don't know that we did the second one because they had sent a request.
I don't think we did.
They did send a
Well,
request.
this one that's recorded is FY23.
Might have been the beginning of last. fiscal
I'm almost certain that we did too. The first one was actually the very first ARPA investment that we made.
Yep.
So
Yep. So you can put me down for 500 here just to provide some resources.
I very much appreciate that the desire to have food available for people who are traveling from long distances. But I actually, because these are people who are coming from other counties in those cases, I would really like to see those other counties contributing to supporting their people getting to the regional hospital, St. Charles, for needed care.
And I'll do 1,000. My family had 2 children in the hospital in Portland when my sisters were young, when they were 4 and 5. One was at Shriners and one was at Dorenbecker. And I honestly don't know how my mom and dad survived it. So I'm really happy to help here. It was, you think about it now and you think, oh my gosh, mom and dad, how did you survive?
All right, next, there's 2 fundraising requests. So the first one is from Jericho Road, and they're requesting $2,000 in sponsorship funding for their annual charity golf tournament on August 12th. Grant funds will be used to cover general expenditures related to the event. In 2002, the organization raised nearly $40,000 to support their programs.
I think we should do the whole thing. We have 15,000 and we're being asked for 4,000 today. So that, both of those requests seem modest and helpful for their programs.
I'd support that.
Okay.
All right,
We'll
so
fund both of them for $2,000.
2,000 to Jericho Road and then 2,000 to Mountain Star Family Relief Nursery.
Great.
Was there any you wanted to go back to or look at again?
Good. Thank you.
Good.
I'm fine.
I'm good. You can just let me know if you get the actual documentation from that one group.
All right. thank
Okay,
you.
not too bad. So that's the end of our published items for this morning. We do have an executive session and then also, which we can do before lunch, and then 1 o'clock public hearing, consider proposed amendments to the Deschutes County Code for prohibitions on camping. So at this time, we'll switch gears to an executive session, and let's just take a 5-minute break before we get to that. Morning with a 1 o'clock time certain for the agenda item. Number 12, public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the Deschutes County Code specific to prohibitions on camping on county-owned property. So this will be a public hearing on the matter. We're going to have an introduction and then also, maybe comments and information about where we're at and what we think we're doing here. Just one more note, just got an email from the sheriff's office. Joseph Taylor Keaton, 56 years old, was attacked and injured by some dogs at the Juniper Ridge Transient Camp, 3 dogs, and he passed away this morning. So this happened at 1:15 last night. So, it's serious business what we're talking about here. And it's just, this just came through our email and I'm sure it'll be in the news later tonight or tomorrow. So what a shame. We want to send our condolences to the family. With that, Dave, please introduce.
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dave Doyle, County Counsel. You'll recall about a little over a month ago, the sheriff addressed the board in a work session and suggested that the county consider some amendments to its camping code to address some of the situations involving homeless folks. I think specifically what the sheriff was trying to target, and I think the board had at least some interest in that, was to see if there was a way to revise existing county code to provide some ability for the county to be able to tell folks, you can't be there, but you can be at this alternate or this other site. And so the sheriff had submitted a draft code revision. County legal was tasked with working through that, and we did. We came up with a little more of a comprehensive approach to that, and we've provided that to the board. I believe it's part of the agenda packet, so I believe folks would have had an opportunity to review that. Really, the substance of it is, besides being able to tell folks, well, you can't be there, but there are these other locations, is just that. And it's for this code to move forward, the county's going to have to identify some alternate sites where folks can shelter outdoors and have some modicum of sanitation and services. So for instance, in contrast with what might be known as a managed camp, we're looking at something, and this comes out of the case law, where there's a suggestion that if you have these alternate sites, alternate outdoor shelter sites, that might allow you to remain in compliance with the Martin versus Boise and Johnson versus Grants Pass Ninth Circuit decisions. And so that's what we've tried to accomplish. But again, the prerequisite to all of that is going to be for the county to identify, I would think, a minimum of 2 or more sites where folks can be directed to go, as opposed to where they maybe choose to go. Also incumbent in the code we've put together is that the county would designate certain lands as open for public versus not open for public. And lands that are open for public are ones where potentially there's some rights under the court decisions for folks to camp and take some level of shelter. So it's also going to be incumbent upon the county to identify county lands that are not otherwise open for public use. And those are generally going to be properties that the county has, out there quite a ways out of the unincorporated cities, that typically might be used by folks to ride vehicles on, or to maybe shoot if they're out there target shooting or whatnot, and those types of lands. So they're generally not in terribly close to cities or even urban growth boundaries. They're typically a little further out properties. And again, that gets at what the commissioners had at least at some point to direct where folks that this is scheduled for a public hearing, and so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. If there's any specifics about the proposal that we put forward, we'll be happy to try to answer that. Otherwise, I'll go take a seat back on the side there and let folks start testifying as to what it is they want to say.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
Just for clarity, so chapter 11.04, public use, referring to purpose of protecting public property. That's a chapter that you've augmented, edited, and put in as a proposed code package for us to review and possibly adopt, right? I mean, it's kind of a contained package.
That's correct. Yeah, and I believe what was also put online as part of the agenda packet did include the red line edits. So folks can see what's proposed to be added, what's proposed to be removed. And it's to the existing county code, chapter 11.04. That's been on the books for decades. And we've simply tried to revise that to address the current issue.
And so just making a clarity and distinction. So then there's another package proposed, as I say, some of the same words, but it's an outline provided by the sheriff. And it talks about the 1 mile from the boundary of any private property line. So that's a different kind of path that we're looking at today. So I'm just acknowledging.
Right. The sheriff brought forth early June a draft proposal for board consideration, and that's what triggered having county council look a little deeper into it and draft up some proposed edits that we believe give us the best chance of addressing the concerns that the board and the sheriff have articulated, and at the same time staying within the parameters of the law here in the Ninth Circuit that are pretty restrictive when it comes to this particular issue, certainly relative to the rest of the country. So it makes it a little more difficult to navigate through that. And that's an important factor. Sometimes people will come forth and say, well, why don't you do what they do in Texas? Or why don't you do what they do in Florida? Or why don't you do what they do in Iowa? They're different federal circuits. And so the law in those circuits is a lot different than the law in this circuit. And the law in this circuit, in a baseball parlance, tie goes to the homeless population. In those other circuits, tie goes to the jurisdictions that are trying to come up with ideas to address those situations. And so that's the best analogy I can give. But so we're working around that as best we can and still trying to accomplish something. And that's why we've put forth what we have. And again, I can't emphasize enough, it's all predicated on having alternate sites where folks can go to. Without that, our code isn't going to fly. We would lose immediately and through a court challenge. We have to have alternate sites where folks can go. That's on the Ninth Circuit. That's pretty much a black letter law.
Thank you.
Dave, thank you for doing the homework for the county on legal precedent and recent legal decisions, federal court decisions in crafting this package that you put together. A couple clarification questions. One specific clarification question, and then one thing beyond that. So what you've put together for us specifically addresses county property. It does not address any other publicly owned property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that choice was made, or that this decision was made because of your understanding of all of this legal precedent that has occurred in the last few years.
Correct. From a jurisdictional point of view, the county couldn't impose these rules on an incorporated city, for instance, or on federal lands, for instance. So the cities could certainly adopt something akin to this if they chose to. One of the troubling issues coming out of the Johnson versus Grants Pass case from the Ninth Circuit is that to the extent you're going to provide alternate sites, they have to be within the jurisdiction. So if you're a city like Bend, where within the jurisdiction are you going to have these alternate sites that aren't going to have conflicts with neighbors? By Oregon land use definition, that's where the population is in the cities. And therefore, wherever cities try to cite these alternate sites where they can direct people to so that they can tell them you can't be here, but you can be there, they become much more difficult. As a county, we have, I think, a little better opportunity to try to identify some alternate sites that are presumably not going to have as much of an impact on the surrounding communities. Ideally, surrounded by publicly owned land on all sides. So there are no private property neighbors that are going to say, hey, wait a minute, why am I bearing the brunt of this versus somebody else? So that's another part. And you did touch, Commissioner, on the federal piece. Kim, and I should add, Kim and Stephanie have spent a lot of time working on this as well. It wasn't just me. But the federal government has to essentially give you jurisdiction over their properties before our local laws can have any real impacts on those. And typically they don't do that. What they may do in some instances is have contractual agreements with local governments to enforce federal laws on federal lands. Example would be up at Elk Lake. We have a contractual agreement at Elk Lake to provide noise enforcement. The federal government had to give that to us because that's jurisdiction under the federal government up there at Elk Lake. And so in as much as they didn't necessarily have federal enforcement officers around to enforce some of the noise issues, they've had an agreement with the county over the years to actually do that. So federal lands bring up some other issues that can be challenging too, which is, where are you going to enforce that? Typically, if it's on federal land, the enforcement mechanism is through the federal courts. Well, the nearest federal court for us is Eugene. My office doesn't staff an office in Eugene. The district attorney's office, if they were going to be the branch involved in any types of prosecution, do not have a presence in Eugene. So are we going to be driving over the mountain weekly to prosecute cases in federal court in Eugene for citations that, say, a Deschutes County deputy may have issued on federal land for violation of federal regulations? How that all comes together logistically and financially is another issue that makes extending what we were tasked with drafting into the federal lands a little more challenging. I'm not saying there isn't a path. There may very well be a path in working with the federal government and the various agencies to have some sort of a mechanism for enforcement by local enforcement folks of the federal rules, but that's going to take a different path and require some different work. This was directed at singularly county properties in the unincorporated county and how we were going to address being able to determine if you can be here but not there. The DSL land is a good example that we have down near the fairgrounds that we're been working on for a decade, and we're this close to being able to do that land swap that will benefit the fairgrounds and ultimately benefit the city of Redmond. And we're in a holding pattern because there's a pretty substantial homeless camp on that property, and the federal government says till that camp's not there, we're not interested in completing this deal. So there's a lot of reasoning and focusing on the county lands. And again, not to be redundant, but we have to have alternate sites to direct folks to, because if we don't have that, we just, it's dead on arrival.
Dave, isn't that actually state land that the state won't swap with us? You just said it was federal.
Well, the land that they'd be getting from us is county land.
Right.
And they
don't want it.
They want the camps removed before they would accept that land swap.
Digging in a little bit on this alternate sites, kind of prerequisite. We're watching the city of Bend move forward with its new its new camping code right now, enforcement of that, clearing of Hunnell Road, and my understanding, and you mentioned how difficult it is to find other places to allow people to camp inside the city of Bend. But my understanding is that the city of Bend is able to proceed because they have made substantial investments in indoor shelter. And they can say, we are clearing people from Hunnell Road, but there are X hundreds of indoor shelter beds within the city of Bend that the city has helped to provide. Is that an accurate assessment of why the legal challenges against the city of Bend's clearing of Hunnell Road are why the court that our circuit court has sided with the city of Bend?
Yeah, I can't speak to any great detail about that, the city of Bend piece. I mean, what I do understand from it is the city did have a process that met the due process requirements. And that is they had an opportunity to provide notice, to give people an opportunity to, in essence, request special type of accommodation based on any health issues or disabilities or whatnot. And that the judge essentially said on that limited issue, the city's code meets the standard that it needs to meet. I don't believe the judge in that case really mined down into the merits of that particular code. I did read in the newspaper that there's been a tort claim notice filed against the city challenging the constitutionality of their code. I'm not privy to that beyond what I read in the newspaper.
Okay.
But yeah, we're navigating a really sticky wicket here. It's challenging. It's difficult, and sometimes we're navigating in the dark. We just don't know for sure.
Yeah.
For instance, this whole idea about alternative shelter sites, which would encompass outdoor camping type activities, that's based on a footnote in the case, in the Grants Pass case. That's about the amount of explanation we have on it from the court. So if something were to work its way to the court in a couple of years, they might expand on that. And so we might find out that what we're proposing isn't going to be enough in the eyes of the Ninth Circuit. We might find out that it is. There's just not a whole lot of guidance in this area. And because we're unique in the Ninth Circuit, we can't look to the other federal circuits for some sort of guidance because they approach it from a different angle.
Right. And then just thinking a little bit farther about down the line about what providing alternate shelter sites looks like for the county. Do you have a sense, or can you paint a picture for us of like kind of what the minimum parameters what would it look like?
Well, I think that the two polar opposites, one would be an actual managed camp, a fully managed camp, which is probably many years away, I suspect, and probably requires a lot of state intervention and money to be able to do a fully managed camp that could accommodate 1,200 homeless folks if they all showed up the same night. The other end would be what's kind of known as Dirt World right now, the encampment in Juniper Ridge that the county is going to be taking some code enforcement action on. To my knowledge, there's no sanitation there. There's really I don't believe there's any running water. There's a lot of issues that affect public health and safety. That'd be the other end. What we've envisioned, and again, without very little guidance from the court, because they're somewhat silent on this, would be something where we assume there'd be porta toilets. There'd be some level of potable water that folks could drink. There'd be some level of trash receptacles and trash collection. Beyond that, I'm not sure where you draw that line in the sand to say this is a sufficient amount of facilities to meet any legal challenge. Again, we're working in the dark on a lot of this. We just don't know. There's not a lot of guidance. I will say I did vet the code revisions we've come up with one of the attorneys that was involved in the Grants Pass case, and he was he spoke very highly of it. He thought we had a really good idea here and a good angle from which to approach this. But as he pointed out, and I think we all know, the devil in the details is going to be identifying alternate sites, equipping those however they're going to be outfitted, and then managing them at some level short of a managed camp. And we're going to probably have to take little baby steps and learn as we go as a county, because there's not a whole lot of guidance. Again, we're very unique. Most of the counties in Oregon don't have our problem. Most of the counties in Oregon don't have a city of Bend that attracts a substantial population of homeless folks, and adjacent to county lands, hundreds and hundreds of acres of county land immediately outside of city limits and urban growth boundaries. You go over in the valley, most of the counties don't have the land holdings we have, so they don't have an issue with folks camping unlawfully on county lands, because most counties don't have the type of land holdings that Deschutes County has. To the east, there are counties that have that, but they don't have a city like Bend that acts sort of as a magnet in terms of services that it provides and economic opportunities. So we're really a unique unicorn, if you will, almost in this issue. It's very unique, the features that come to bear here in Deschutes County, and we're trying to manage all those, and there's not a lot of guidance. There hasn't been much help. Again, because with the exception of us, I'm not sure too many other counties in the state are confronted with what we're confronted with as a county. Cities certainly are, and I'm not downplaying that at all, but as a county, we're in an incredibly unique situation. And so we're struggling as best we can.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about camping codes today, and you've laid out for us kind of what the minimum and kind of maximum might be in terms of these alternate sites that we would be required to have before we can enforce any kind of a camping code. So I don't want to dwell too much on this, these alternate sites questions, but I do want to just kind of signal to the public that the idea of Deschutes County setting up a very minimal alternate site where we authorized or encouraged people to go and camp, I think is in and of itself a very risky and dangerous thing. If we set up a place that has no rules, no structure, no management, there will be chaos. And I mean, there will be chaos, and it will be our responsibility that chaos happens. I mean, if one homeless person's dog killed another homeless person last night up in North Juniper Ridge, we didn't authorize people to be there. But if we actually set it up for people to be there and that happened, what kind of responsibility would the county have for that death?
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner. And certainly to the extent that the county is encouraging or authorizing or directing folks to go to certain areas, we're going to have a higher duty of care than we would if someone's simply just trespassing or squatting on a county property without our consent or approval. So yeah, the standard of care goes up substantially in those types of situations. I will say any action that the county takes, or frankly, inaction that the county chooses to take, is going to be wrought with some level of risk and liability. I don't know that we can extract ourselves from that situation. It's at this point a cost of doing business.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that many of the people in the room today are here because they are concerned about the chaos that occurs in an unauthorized, unplanned, unmanaged homeless encampment. And if we do this, if we do the minimum half measures to set up something so that we're allowed to enforce a camping code, we're actually creating that chaos instead of it just kind of happening without our approval. So I just kind of want to put that out there.
Yeah, certainly if we had a magic wand, we'd ask the state to supersite one of these managed camps in all 36 counties and staff it and provide the funding for it and have all the various service providers have opportunity for a presence there. But I don't know that we have that magic wand, and I don't know that it's going to occur. So this is the best that we could come up with the constraints of the existing law, and recognizing that it's going to be far from perfect, but it's the best that we were able to come up with. If it's something that the county elects to pursue, obviously that's going to ultimately come up to the three of you. The sheriff has a draft as well that he had a month or so ago. I believe they made a few revisions to that, and I believe that the sheriff would like to see that particular piece of code go forward as opposed to the one that we've revised and worked on. So there's any number of opportunities, and how you choose to go, we'll do everything we can to support it and keep you within the rails so that have our best opportunity to be able to withstand any legal challenge. But there's a lot of gray associated with that legal challenge. There just isn't a whole lot of guidance out there, and we're doing our best to kind of navigate and bump through it.
So you mentioned action or inaction are both risky at this time. So, I mean, that is where we're at, and I would agree with that. Any thoughts, Commissioner?
We can see what's happening with the unmanaged camps. China had been working on that for 5 years. Dirt World, look what happened last night. Just checked. The sheriff did have pets acknowledged in his, but according to Kim, they are taken care of by the county with codes, chapter 6, where animals have the rules and everything. So, I feel really horrible that someone lost their life to, a dog attack. It's a person.
In that scenario, I don't believe that'd be processed through our county code. That's likely a
wouldn't?
criminal matter that the district attorney's office would be involved in.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, I know that, and Shane had originally said dogs must be leashed or crated. So, and then he took that out. And I was assuming because of chapter 6, it's already in our code. But I really feel like we have to people need rules and they need to be given direction. They need to be empowered and not enabled. And we've been doing a lot of enabling the last so many years. And when you hear the stories about the gunshots and the bullets going by people's head and the fact that we had so many fires, it was like almost every day we were having a fire in China Hat. It's just, we're on this very tightrope. And I feel like we as county commissioners have to make a decision. We've actually got to do a lot of rules. We cannot have chaos in our county, all 3,055 square miles of it. We've got to have rules. We've got to figure out a spot. And, Commissioner DeBone and I, a couple of years ago, had picked out 10 acres surrounded by our other acres of 1,600 acres. Unfortunately, look how many years it's taken to get to that point where now we know Oasis Village has got a headway and then more is going to be done on that property. But that will have rules. I just believe we need to have rules. And I know you said that makes the liability much greater for the county. And yet we've got to do something to protect the citizens that are living in such precarious times. If we have a wind or if some bullet goes the wrong way and somebody loses their life that lives in that neighborhood, I just feel like it's time we have to do something. So
Certainly, if we move forward in the direction we've put together in this draft code revision, the board's going to have a lot of say in what the alternate site would look like, not just where it would be, but what it would look like, how it would be, what type of facilities would be there, what type of management, and I use that with a small m instead of a big M, but what type of management would occur there, what levels. It's going to really be for you folks to decide if you choose to go in that direction.
and the fact that the sheriff's office already has that with, what is it, Elk Lake?
There's an agreement at Elk Lake with the federal government, for noise. It's limited to noise enforcement, but
Okay.
but that there is a process to get there from here.
Okay. So they could actually work on that agreement then with the federal government.
Yeah, now
In
the
order-
federal government has to want to get involved in that, and there's a lot of levels of federal government, and I suspect, dealing with a hot button issue like homeless on the West Coast, I suspect it would have to go pretty high up in the federal, process before there'd be somebody that could respond back and with any real authority or say. I did see the sheriff contacted someone from the USDA yesterday with regard to his proposal, and that person has referred him back to Holly Jukes locally.
Oh, that was Sally Butts out of Portland,
Yeah.
who's the legal for Region 6. And I did speak with the new interim director, Elizabeth Berger, last week. And I felt like she needs to come over here and see the problem and see the neighborhood. It's Glenn Casamassa. I'm not sure if he ever came over, but Elizabeth is his replacement or he retired. So I'm just hoping we can get her over here. I know Sally's been here. Sally's seen what the neighborhood is doing in China Hat. And I feel like Congressman Benz is clearly aware of the situation. His chief of staff lives in Deschutes County. So he hears from a lot of people honestly on a daily basis. So we've got to quit talking and we've actually got to do something.
Thank you very much. So that was an introduction to the topic. So at this time, this is a public hearing on the matter. So the package as presented in our agenda, Deschutes County Code Section 11.4. I'll acknowledge that we've received some emails specifically on the topic of the DCSO proposed camping code revisions, and they're all in opposition. So this is 3 different emails specifically on that topic. And so at this time, we're going to go to oral portion of a hearing. So I'm going to just go down. We have multiple microphones, 3 microphones. I'm going to mention a name and the follow-up name. And then so we'll work on having 2 people at a time, basically rotating in and out. So Yeah, please.
Do that. Like I was told as late as the end of last week that the sheriff was going to come and possibly both respond to this new proposal and also kind of emphasize some of his preferences around his earlier proposal. Is that not going to happen?
Sheriff notified me that he will not be here today.
Okay.
So starting off will be Estella Larson, and then following will be Helen Webry. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you all regarding, and I'm so tired today because honestly, I live directly across from the road that leads into the camp. And the traffic was awful last night. So I'm really tired.
Let's do an introduction with name and.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not a problem. Just reminding everybody.
No, that's fine. I should have started out. See, I told you I was tired. I'm Stella Larson, Larson. I live at 60241 Tall Pine Avenue in Bend, 97702. It's Woodside Ranch. My property faces, the front door faces Tall Pine, but my whole back area, the part we use, is all fully exposed to the camp. And so, and we do have, I prepared a statement, but we do have roaming packs of dogs, and I am sick about hearing about this death. And, you know, everything I do, I have baby Bradley stamped on my forehead, that beautiful baby that they found in the forest before a controlled burn. And I'm like, I see this all the time, this sort of pathos that's unfolding, this dystopian thing we have that is completely out of control. And Commissioner Chang mentioned, or not Commissioner Chang, excuse me, Council mentioned a unicorn. Well, we feel that we are all impaled by the horn of the unicorn. We are stuck. It's bad. And I'll just read my thing because I don't want to take other people's time, but I really appreciate the chance to speak. And I really have a very strong caring factor for this, for everyone, us too, and them too. But I hate to even think of us and them, but it's chaos versus order. And there is a big versus going on. And really, we're trying so hard to be cooperative, compassionate, and kind. I don't know how much sleep deprivation, gunshots, smoke, urine, hypodermic needles, domestic violence, children crying. I don't know how much I can take. But anyway, I live within 200 feet of public lands, close to mile markers noting motorized vehicles prohibited. When we purchased our home 10 years ago, we checked with the Forest Service and were told the area China had across from our home was a dry campground and there were limits for campers. We thought this would be okay as our family could camp with their kids and be nearby. How very wrong we were. Our children, all grown, do not come. They consider this area to be contaminated environmentally and socially to the point where exposing their children to us and our area is unacceptable. I have spoken before about the social and ecological disasters unfolding concurrently in the forest or what is left of the forest. Drug use, toileting, paraphernalia everywhere, deer poaching, trespass on and through our private property, dogs roaming, theft, gunfire, and always the fires, trash burning, human waste burning, and often large and unattended. Often the fires are burning in pre-dawn hours when we are least likely to call them in. And often we are counseled to just please keep an eye on the fire and call us if it gets out of control. That goes really good when I'm 78 years old at 11.
So I'm going to acknowledge it's been 3 minutes. If you want to wrap up now.
I thank you. I thank you. But I just want to say I support the sheriff's proposed ban for and it's not kicking the can down the road, but we need a buffer. And we have often requested the Forest Service to do the same. Bullets and smoke make for poor quality of life, and this dystopian mess is neither legal nor safe. Most sincerely, I urge all of you to take a field trip. I cannot cross China Hat, but maybe you can. I just can't go there. Thank you.
So much. Yeah, thank you.
Didn't mean to
Well,
take
you-
extra time.
Can I just
And-
ask, you said you support the
I'm
sheriff's,
supporting the sheriff's buffer
so,
proposal.
what we just heard from county legal counsel is,
No,
no, actually, this is
good
pretty.
decorum here today.
the-
No.
No, I'm trying to clarify whether you support the sheriff's or initial proposal or, and whether you have a position on the proposal you just
I'd like to
heard
answer the
from
question.
county legal counsel.
I'd like to answer the
And
question.
when I ask a question, you're allowed to answer.
Do I have a go?
Yes.
Well, thank you. I have not been able to read the latest proposal or review it, so I really can't answer to that. I did have a question, though, to you, all commissioners, about ex parte communication on this item and disclosure of any ex parte communication, which hasn't been done routinely. I mean, the chair would normally, to me, request of the commissioners, has there been any ex parte communication to be shared in the public hearing? So part of this I can get and part of it I can't get. So I am, responding, Commissioner Chang, to what I know and not having been privy or able to get the proposal. So that's my response. And even if it's just to pique your awareness, it's not in general. I appreciate what you're saying, but I also would appreciate, in addition to public notice and all of that, to be able to read everything, and I can't. So
And-
I'll submit this and yield my chair.
Yeah, and the people of Deschutes County deserve transparency. So it would be helpful for us to clarify for everyone whether what is in this board packet that everyone had access to is what Dave Doyle presented to us, or whether it is the most recent revision of the sheriff's initial proposal.
My understanding is both were included, both what the county council had prepared in response to that, and also the sheriff's most updated proposal was also included.
So in terms of transparency, that's where it is.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of your questions about ex parte communications, I'd also ask legal counsel to unpack for us for a legislative matter like this. This is not a quasi judicial land use decision where we need to disclose if we have, talked to, the landowner, who's submitting an application or not. But can you just explain the way that ex parte communications work?
Normally, we would ask those questions before a quasi judicial matter, and since this is not a quasi judicial matter, those questions were not asked.
Okay.
This is an open conversation for everybody. So
Appreciate it.
message.
I appreciate the explanation, and thank you for listening to mine.
Thank you.
And I'm submitting mine.
So next is Helen, and then following will be John Halen.
I'm Helen Weber. It's spelled strangely. And I've been a Deschutes County resident since 1975 and a Woodside Ranch resident since 1990. And I agree with Patty Adair. We are living in precarious times, and I think we need to take some immediate action. I know it's a very complex problem, and the way council referred to it as a unicorn is an appropriate metaphor, I think. But in order for this unicorn to survive, we're going to have to face the fact that this is a problem that is growing much more rapidly than we seem able to keep up with it. And I think we're going to need more than one camp of however many acres to handle the problem. I think we need multiple camps because it's a gargantuan problem that's not showing any signs of stopping. People are coming here for the benefits, for the support. I think we're recruiting them with some of our policies, but we just have to face that fact. To answer what Commissioner Chang asks my friend and neighbor Stella Larson, I do support Sheriff Shane Nelson's first proposal because it mentioned keeping camps a mile away from residences, from private property, which is even more of a challenge. I'm an optimist, and so I'm hoping against hope, I suppose, that we can negotiate some kind of an agreement with the federal government if they would recognize how urgent our situation is, the possibility for a loss, huge loss of human life and property, and that maybe they will allow more cooperative enforcement that would encompass the China Hat camps area, camps plural. I've been thinking about things that affect my neighbors, my family, and my friends. If the camps were 1 mile away, the gunshots would be further away and less likely to enter our neighborhood. I know a 22 bullet can travel actually a mile in ideal conditions, but they're shooting much more powerful calibers than 22s out in that camp, and we hear it daily. It would be safer for me and my friends to walk. One night recently, we were out walking in the evening and the police, thank goodness, were out chasing some fugitives with the pack of dogs. And we were within probably 100 yards of that activity. So I called my husband to come and pick us up from the walk because I wasn't carrying a weapon to defend us and the three of us.
That's been 3 minutes.
Pardon?
That's been 3 minutes. Please wrap it up.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, there would be many changes, and I guess I would include the deer, the coyotes, and the unicorn in hoping that we can do something not to endanger further the lives of wildlife in our area, and certainly the lives and safety of humans. It would be nice to have a mile buffer so we could escape if one of these fires actually takes off. And it's just been scary. That's all I can say. Thank you for listening, and thank the law enforcement people for caring and having our backs. We really appreciate them and the fire department.
John Halen and then Liz Young Goodrich following.
Hi, my name is John Halen. I live at 61383 Rock Bluff Lane in Bend, Oregon. I'm here because I am against the ordinance. First of all, I think that you can't make a problem go away just by making it illegal. These are humans. These are American citizens. Over 70% of them have a disability. And when you consider how many other people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck and are one paycheck away from getting kicked out of their home, I can't imagine that there's so many people that can't imagine themselves in the place of someone without a home. The fact that there's no empathy that I see drives me nuts. And it makes me feel very shameful about how we conduct ourselves around the houseless population in this county. I could go on about that. I mean, I could say that I think that the Deschutes County Fairgrounds would be a great managed campsite, put all 4,000 in Deschutes County there, but of course that's never going to happen. I will say that I don't think that this is a great idea for the county as far as cost. I don't see why we have a sheriff who has already cost us millions of dollars in lawsuits by being vindictive, being further vindictive right before he retires and costing the county probably another $1 million in legal fees. And everyone here is so mad and fed up with this problem that they're ignoring that. This is going to be a long legal battle that's going to cost us so much money when we keep saying that we cry poor mouth when we look for basic services for the county. So I want you to really think, do you really want to spend $100,000, $500,000, $1 million fighting lawsuits for the next 5 years about this? Or should we treat these people with compassion? I was really happy to hear that there has to be a managed campsite for people before we can move them. I think that's great, but you know, we need to have those managed campsites first, and I just don't see that happening. So the status quo continues, unfortunately. I just want everyone to think with compassion and empathy for people and imagine themselves homeless and how they would want to be treated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Liz. And then following would be Joanna Johnson Weinberg.
Good afternoon, Liz Goodrich, live in Redmond. And every Sunday I serve with some other volunteers out at a homeless camp. I know a couple of the commissioners have been out to visit and help clean up. So I know that you know where I'm talking about. I'm super curious to see what's going to happen this Sunday. I fully anticipate that we will be seeing significantly more customers due to the sweeps that happened on Hunnell and Clausen. And I would imagine that should sweeps happen, or should this ordinance pass, that we're going to continue to see people congregating in larger numbers in Redmond. I agree with the gentleman that just spoke that I would prefer that the county spend money on the front end of this problem than on the back end of this problem with legal fees. To me, that seems a more prudent way of using my tax dollars. Moving people around isn't solving the problem, and it's just going to cost us money in the long run. I know that you all care deeply. Patty Adair, I've heard you speak very passionately about the concern for safety for fire. And Commissioner DeBowen, I've seen you out picking up trash out there. And same with Commissioner Chang. I know that there is compassion there. And I hope that we can show that in a way, in a tangible way, to help these people find a place to land before we execute some sort of sweep. So I encourage you to tap into that part of yourself and use tax dollars wisely and pay for some structure on the front end rather than lawsuits on the back end. So thank you.
Just kind of like to get engaged a little bit. We have sent a letter to the governor's office, letter to the legislatures, letters to DLCD saying, let's cite something somewhere. And this beautiful land use system that we have that we put in place 50 years ago ties our hands. We don't have the authority to cite. Maybe we're going to have to take a step out and say an emergency order to cite somewhere, which could be a quarter mile from somebody's house. So, I mean, think about this. We're in a tight spot whenever it comes to thinking about, well, let's just cite something somewhere. So as you pull out a map, it all falls apart. So I just.
No, and I appreciate that. I know
got
that,
me thinking about that.
Yeah, and I understand. But you're smart people. You employ smart people. I feel like.
And I would acknowledge that, yeah, I mean, there's no guidance from the governor's office, DLCD. There's a lot of resistance. So yeah, I'm just for information here. There may be action taken and it's still going to be a bumpy road, but either we're going to have to take action one way or inaction's risky also. So,
right. I appreciate it.
Little
Thank
feedback.
you.
Yeah.
No, I have a meeting actually tomorrow afternoon with Director Taylor Smiley Wolf, who runs housing for the governor, because I have to go to Salem the following Friday and I've asked for a meeting with the governor. She has not answered our request in order to do something outside the cities. And, you know, she was upset with the 1 acre at Les Schwab. Well, I know that there are already like 200 homeless out at the south end of Bend. We didn't need to further complicate that, but we have been asking, and I'm hoping tomorrow I'll be one step, we'll be one step closer to actually accomplishing something. We have people that will not go to the Bethlehem Inn. They will not go to the Navigation Center. We are recognizing that. And, but because we have EFU land, the governor has to give special dispensation, and, it hasn't happened yet. So perhaps tomorrow it'll be a little more understandable with our relationship and the numbers, as Dave Doyle just mentioned earlier in this presentation. We in Deschutes County have greater numbers than most counties do. in the state. So
Well, I appreciate you continuing to advocate with the governor to try and get something done. And I certainly see every Sunday, I see that wide rate, homeless folks, people living outdoors are not a monolith. They span a whole range of reasons and circumstance. So I applaud your efforts to try to get the governor to move. And
I mean, look at safe parking in Redmond. We added the county land. It's the safe parking program actually in Bend is doing a great job too. More expansion of those programs, especially when they have to deal with excellent leaders like we do have for that program. I'm just hoping that more people can fit in there and get that help that they need in order to get back to the world.
I appreciate that. And let's not be distracted by the good work that you're doing to advocate for the governor and advocate for more public parking, safe parking. Let's not look away from the fact that displacing people that this ordinance would do will cause harm. So I appreciate your effort, but there's harm that's coming with that action.
Well, I did talk to Gwen Weisling yesterday, and there were 6 to 8 beds in Bend and Redmond available.
Mhm.
And, a month or two ago, only half the beds in Redmond were being used. And the county funded 900,000 for that. So we have really done a lot of things. We gave 1.5 million to the city that it took them quite a while to spend, but we have done a lot of things underneath. And, it seems that we need to repeat the story of what we've done, but looking to the future.
And just to clarify for everyone who's here, what we're talking about, there are a couple of sites not that far from the city of Bend's urban growth boundary, and potentially sites in the Redmond area as well that are outside of city limits, but are county-owned property or have willing private landowners who are very open to hosting some kind of an authorized outdoor shelter. If these lands are zoned exclusive farm use, currently an outdoor shelter is not an authorized use there. So we're trying to get a little bit of flexibility from the state to explore really be able to explore those possibilities and maybe develop some of those opportunities. There's been a lot of back and forth with the legislature, with the LCD, the Department of Land and Conservation and Development, and with the governor's office. And currently, actually, the ball is in our court. The governor's office sent us back 4 or 5 questions, and it's our job at this point to answer those questions to their satisfaction to continue the discussion forward.
Thank you.
Joanna, and then following will be Jana Polish.
I wrote this before I learned of kind of the update with the proposed, we need additional sites. So the current state of homelessness in our community presents a challenging and complex situation. It is disheartening to know that people have no place to go and that the existing housing and shelter options are limited and with lengthy wait lists. The efforts of service providers who work tirelessly to combat barriers to those experiencing homelessness are commendable and crucial to addressing this crisis. Voting yes on this proposed ban and relocating people will undoubtedly create further challenges and frustrations for both county and city officials and those experiencing homelessness. Displacing individuals without providing viable options only exacerbates the problem rather than resolving it. It is essential to acknowledge that a camping ban does not provide a comprehensive solution to homelessness. Instead, it can result in displacement of individuals, pushing them into more precarious situations and making it even more difficult for service providers to assist them effectively. As we continue our efforts to combat homelessness, it is vital to consider alternative approaches that prioritize compassion and understanding. Focusing on long-term solutions such as investing in affordable housing, expanding shelter capacities, managed camps, safe parking, and providing supportive services will have a more significant impact in addressing the root causes of homelessness. Let us remember that people experiencing homelessness are our fellow community members, deserving of compassion and assistance, not exclusion and punishment. By passing this ban, we are literally and figuratively erecting blockades and fences, cutting off the lifelines that are helping people progress toward a better future. By working collaboratively and innovatively, we can find more effective ways to address the crisis. Let us all come together to advocate for a comprehensive strategy that provides real opportunities to those in need rather than simply displacing the issue elsewhere. The path to ending homelessness is challenging, but it is not insurmountable. By working together, acknowledging the complexities of this issue, and investing in sustainable solutions, we can make a positive impact in the lives of our fellow community members experiencing homelessness and create a more inclusive and compassionate society for all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jana Polish and then Kevin Gordon. No. I tried.
Oh, you did. Good on you.
So I wrote these words out and I know some things have changed since I've been here, but I'm just going to go ahead and read and add some things at the end. Board of Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jana Polish and I live at 201 A0 Red Sky Lane. I'm here today to voice my support for Sheriff Nelson's proposed ban on publicly owned land within 1 mile of the UGB on the Deschutes County zoning map. This was presented in May to the commissioners. The amendments made to this ordinance by the county attorneys, which changed the language from publicly owned to county owned, is too restrictive and will not address the very areas where illegal camping is occurring at the present time. I live near China Hat Road, and I've spoken to you in the past about illegal campers living in this area. At that time, there were around 150 campers. Today, the number is over 500 and will continue to grow as Hunnell Road and Juniper Ridge camps are being dismantled. The China Hat campers are on federal land and the federal government is unwilling to come up with solutions to address the lawlessness occurring in the Deschutes National Forest. This is a humanitarian and environmental crisis. Those of us living nearby live in constant fear of catastrophic wildfire developing because of the amount of illegal campfires, RV explosions, gunfire, and drug use occurring every day. The forest is being destroyed with human waste dumped directly onto the ground from trailers. Needles from drug use, litter, and the remains of abandoned campsites and burnt out stolen vehicles can be found anywhere you try to venture. There is not an option to recreate in this once beautiful forest as it's become a dangerous place for even law enforcement officers. That being said, I'm not just here to complain. I, along with other community members, have been actively working on solutions for the last 2 years to address this problem. And as you are well aware, it's a very complex issue. One of the solutions is high barrier managed camps within Deschutes County, and we need safe camping options for people right now. And the 45 acres off of Highway 126 next to Oasis Village that doesn't need a governor approval would be a great spot rather than the RV camping area. Along with sanctioned camps, I'd like to see safe parking programs expanded with the goal of providing outreach with caseworkers to move people toward independence. We need to promote a model of empowerment that asks people to take responsibility for their own lives and helps them participate in overcoming obstacles. I believe in giving back to this community and I want to be a part of the solution. I have personally given time and money to charities to help those in need, as well as funding cleanup efforts on China Hat. I don't share this for accolades, but to demonstrate I have compassion for the human suffering that I see growing in this town, and I want to do what I can to help. However, I cannot stop people from choosing dangerous behaviors that put us all at risk. We need a camping ban on all publicly owned lands within 1 mile of the UGB to funnel people to areas that are safe for them and the community at large. So that being said, when I listened to Mr. Doyle about changing the camping code to just county owned, my concern is that if this does pass, then it's going to push more people to China Hat. So an IGA with the federal government, where it gives the sheriff's jurisdiction to trespass people who are violating the 14-day camping rule, would be necessary. So we would need that in place before the proposal by Mr. Doyle for just the county land. What was the other thing?
Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
So just a little bit of thoughts, and I came to this conclusion too recently. If we can't just, totally manage that area, and the terminology is, we don't have concurrent jurisdiction. It's exclusive jurisdiction to the federal government when it gets to the Forest Service lands. So then I called the forest supervisor and said, how about we do something together here? So we've already started to ask that question.
Right.
One of the concepts is Forest Service people want to protect the resource. Having this issue of all the dispersed campers staying for long term, they're not even staffed up for that. So as I say, at this point in time, I'm offering, and the sheriff's office is offering too, what can we do to help you? So that's kind of how the relationship's turning out recently. And then also called the staffer for our Senator Ron Wyden, because he's been in office a long time. He knows the big picture and long history here. How about we have some leadership help from our federal delegation referring to these public lands that are right next to us. So there's some action happening there also.
I do remember what else I added. Just real quick, the Martin v. Boise, my understanding was that was within city limits and had to provide shelter beds for those camping, violating the camping ordinances within cities. These people that are living on China Hat have campers, they have trailers, they have tents, they have a place to sleep, and they choose not to take a shelter bed. So I guess I'm not an attorney, but it doesn't seem like there could be a lawsuit for moving people off those lands when they have a bed and they're choosing not to take a shelter bed.
And it was mentioned, it's uncharted territory right now.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So, Kevin, and then following will be Brooks Larson.
Hi, my name's Kevin Guadagno. I live 22041 Banff Drive, 97702. Thanks for having me today, commissioners. I wanted to ask a question. Phil Chang, have you been out to China Hat with your feet walking?
Yeah, it's not appropriate to
that.
start a conversation like that. Please testify.
But,
Okay.
but yes, I have.
Okay.
I've participated in several cleanups. I've recreated out in the area a number of times.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
commissioners have seen what's going on out there. My wife Jenny and I travel to the neighboring states often. Horse shows, horse sales, horse anything really. Jenny loves horses. Inevitably, every place we visit, we were asked, where are you guys from? Bend, Oregon. That's our town. That's our community. My wife grew up here, me 35 years. I was a prep cook downtown at the restaurants, drank Mirror Pond beer shoots on Monday nights with all the locals. Maybe a late one at the D&D. Now Jenny works for the county. We've raised a son here. I work as well in town for 30 years, still supplying Oregon restaurants. We scraped together everything we had to buy a place back in 2008 from a bank, and we had done it. We had some land and some horses. Over the years, I've been in the parades, cooked Thanksgiving for the needy at the old woolen mill, helped the kids learn to fish at Shevlin, donated our time to Healing Reins Equestrian for disabled kids, plowed my neighborhood roads when the snow piled up, hauled trash and car parts out of the woods on China Hat Road. Heck, I've even run the pole pedal paddle, if you can believe it, a few times. Bend is my community. Squatting encampments have been growing in population on China Hat for 3 years now. We have roads where there was once forests, outhouses framed and feces in piles under them, dozens of disabled vehicles and RVs leaking toxic fluid into the ground. No trespassing, and trespassers will be shot signs hung in the trees around the camps. Dog attacks, machete attacks, sexual assaults, drug deals, stolen cars, and of course, forest fires. Last week, I had helicopters flying over my place with buckets of water all day long. There were 4 incidents last week, and fortunately, the wind was light and all of our Central Oregon firefighting resources were yet to be called out. I've been out in these camps, met many of the people. They are from all over the country, many from the South and Midwest. Most are from here by word of mouth. Most are here to do drugs. Our lives have changed. Our horse trails have human feces and trash on them, needles and barking dogs. We only ride in the morning time. We have a planned escape route, a horse trailer that's hooked up to a rig at all times in case we need to evacuate. As community leaders, you have a responsibility to make decisions that help our community.
I'm going to wrap up, Kevin.
I'm wrapping up. Being an elected leader takes hard work and the courage to make difficult decisions. You have some difficult decisions to make, and I hope you have the courage to do what's right for Bend, Oregon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Brooks Larson, and then following will be Ellen Arnson.
Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate being able to address you. My name is Brooks Larson. I live at 60241 Tall Pine Avenue, which, as my wife Stella, who led off this meeting with her comments, has given a lot of detailed information, and I won't repeat that. I just wanted to say that I'm in support of the boundary limits that the sheriff proposes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooks.
Alan is next, and then Ed Muir.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Aronson. I live at, or I'm building a house at 602 Sunset View Drive. I've been here since 1973, and we're having, everybody's complaining about, our backyard and people are living, close to our subdivisions. I'm in favor of the proposal of moving people out at least a mile. I'm actually building this house that I'm building. I put it up for sale and for $2 million. And I'm trying to fire sell it right now for 1.2 because I just can't sell it. And so I just asked that you guys would consider, moving people out because it's obviously a huge danger to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Muir. I live in Southwest Bend. I lived there for over 6 years now. Couple of things. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result is a definition of insanity. And I think that insanity has gone on long enough in the county. Also, we live in a society of laws. What's happened here in Bend in Deschutes County is that we've created two societies, one with laws and one without laws. And so what we have in China Hat and Dirt World, Hunnell Road is a society, a dystopian society, I think someone said earlier, which I agree with, that has its own set of laws or no laws in the case. There's been murders, there's been rapes, there's been human trafficking. They have some inside information on a lot of the things that have happened out there, and it needs to stop. And I support the sheriff's initiative to stop this camping and move people out and get them away from the neighborhoods at least a mile. I think it's important to do that for the safety of the people who are our taxpayers and supporting the city. People have made a choice to be homeless, and I think we need managed camps. I think we need them quickly. I'm tired of all the tiptoeing around the legal issues and so on. Somebody needs, and you guys need to make a bold decision to go and create managed camps, get the people out of Dirt World and Hunnell Road and the other places, get them managed. And if they don't want to be managed, then they need to move along to someplace else. So it's time for bold moves. And I'm tired of the BS of people just keep talking and talking and talking and nothing gets done. There's been over $30 million spent so far and not a damn thing's done, and the situation's worse. So make a move and get things done.
Thank you very much. So Ruth Mocko is be next, Ruth Mock, and then Matt Miller. Is Ruth? There we go. Thank you, Ruth.
Hello, my name is Ruth Mock, and I live at 60277 Evening Star Lane. And I've lived here for 3 years. And it's been interesting to hear someone say in the past 3 years, the homeless has increased. Gee, lucky me. I moved here just at the right time. But my question is, and I have listened to everyone who have their opinions, and I agree with the gentleman who was just here. There are different laws for different people, and I don't think that's fair. I live off of China Hat, and it's scary. Now, Commissioner Chang, you said that you've been there. I hear Patty Adair saying, we need to do something. We talk about chaos. There is chaos going on now. And yet I've been here for 3 years. I hear everybody talking about it. It's a real problem. And I have a question for all of you. What have you accomplished that we can actually say, wow, they've done their job?
I just took my second tour of Deer Ridge last Friday. I went there 2 years ago. It's a half empty facility. Originally, I had permission from Colette Peters to go and do something there, such as Alan Evans Helping Hands program. He runs the Wapato Jail in Portland. It's an outstanding program, and had a tour again of the facility, had some new ideas. And that's one of the things I am asking the governor about. It's a lovely location. It's a minimum security prison, but it actually is, it's in a beautiful spot on the east side of Madras. So just trying to bring that in. We truly have people out there that are mentally ill, and we have substance use disorder. Mr. Evans' programs works with both of those people. If we can't get the state to set it up as a state hospital. We have a state hospital now in Salem that really runs as a state prison. I was born in Pendleton. Pendleton actually has had a state hospital that actually helped people that were mentally ill. They ran a great program. And so I really believe that we need to bring that program to Deer Ridge.
I totally agree with you.
So, I mean, I keep trying, and we've got a plan of attack to ask other commissioners in the state to get behind this idea, because we're just putting Band-Aids on people. We are not helping them. The average homeless person in Austin, Texas dies at 59. They get to their housing program at 57 and they die by 59. So we're really putting a Band-Aid on the situation. And yet I worry about all you because you're sitting there with the danger of fires. I visited China Hat on February 2nd. I was with 2 deputies and I was instructed not to get out of the vehicle. I saw all the damage. We saw almost the whole park and I'd been there before, and it's definitely much, much worse.
Well, and what happens to the people who die there?
Right. What happens?
And they don't have the money to get funeral services, so they bury them there.
No.
No?
They don't get buried there.
Well, who takes them then?
Well, so yeah, please finish testimony. 'Cause, yeah,
Okay,
we gotta
I'm
be
sorry.
careful
I know
back and forth all
we're
the-
getting off.
Since you asked the question of what have we done, I think there are many things that local governments can do to address homelessness. We have not done all of them. The thing I think I could point to that we have done the most of is made investments in partner projects that are either already up and operating or are going to be operating soon that move people out of homelessness every day. The Veterans Village, Bethlehem Inn, Shepherd's House.
What do you do with the people who don't want to go to the shelters?
My strategy, my thought process is we create the stepping stones and pathways for people to get out of homelessness. And then when those actually exist, when there are meaningful opportunities for people to get out of homelessness and they choose not to take those, that's when it's appropriate for them to interact with law enforcement.
Well, the other thing is, I hear yes and no about people that are homeless that are coming from other areas to Bend because of what we do and what we give to these people. And yet I see other people saying, no, that's not true.
The only meaningful data set that we have is the point in time count that's conducted once a year.
And I read
Point in time
read
count
the
tells us
results.
that 3/4 of the people who are experiencing homelessness in our community are long-term Central Oregonians.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I've got Patty Adair saying no.
We're going to work through this process here today.
The fella, so that doesn't mean that everyone at China Hat Road is like.
Read the survey questions on.
There are,
Commissioner Chang, you want to go? I'll let you go if you want to keep doing this.
Well, you let people interrupt. I'm going to
You're
respond.
jumping.
So I will
You
respond.
want me to stop them or not?
Are you going to stop people before they ask questions or after they ask questions? If you stop them after they ask questions, then it seems like I don't have an answer. If you stop them, if you let me answer, then they got a chance to ask their question, and I had a chance to answer. So the fellow that's behind you in the grocery store, that's wearing kind of worn clothes, but worked all day and is buying his groceries and is going home. to sleep in a car because he can't afford rent, that is a homeless person. Okay, that doesn't mean you see a slice of the homeless population at China Hat Road, but the only way we get a comprehensive picture of the entire homeless population of our county is by doing methodical data collection. And the point in time count is the only methodical data collection that we do.
But it's not accurate because you can't, when you talk to these people, it has to be if they want to participate in your survey. So there may be people that say, I don't want to participate and I don't want to answer any questions.
I would encourage you to participate in the data collection next year, and you'll see the methods that people use to count folks who don't want to
I'd
participate.
be happy to do that. Be happy to do that.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much.
And I do support Sheriff Nelson's petition.
Great, thank you. So Matthew Miller is next and then Robert Fish.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Matthew Miller. I live at 60053 Ridgeview Court. We back up to federal land and in the China Hat area. I won't go into what happens out there. I think everyone's touched on that. You guys are well aware of there's a completely different set of rules for folks that live out there. But we're constantly living in the fear of fire. And so I support the original proposal by Sheriff Nelson for the 1 mile camping buffer from public or private property line. I would also encourage you to explore the IGA agreement with federal government and keep constituents informed how they can help move that process along as well. So I am in support of the original camping ban.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew.
Robert Fish and then Jennifer Lingard.
Thank you. I'm Robert Fish. I live at 19850 Second Street, Bend, which is actually down in Tumalo. And I know that homelessness is not a simple issue. How people get there is complicated. How they exist there is complicated. And how they get out of there is complicated. It's not only, excuse me, finances. It's also their character, their mental capacities, and culture. So what I'd like to do is suggest something that can help everybody come together, because right now it seems to be a thems and those, us and them, this group, that group. How about if we add another prong to the fix, is we allow people to sponsor somebody that is underhoused, unhomed, homeless. So they can come to, say, my house. I'll put them up, whether it's in a RV in my backyard, RV in my front yard, on the front street, but they're at my house. I'm responsible for them. I help them get to the agencies that can help them out, whether it's mental, drug abuse, PTSD, however they can get help. I help them out financially. I help them out transportation wise. I mentor them. I partner with those people. And then that way it's not, they're put someplace else. They're not segregated, thrown out in the middle of nowhere, or in a high barrier facility where they're managed like an alternated prison camp, but they're human beings. And there's lots and lots of very compassionate people that want to help, but I don't think they have that ability to actually get their hands on it without saying, oh, let's spend somebody else's money to do that over there, not in my backyard. So.
Thank you very much.
Robert, well, you may be happy to hear that the state legislature just passed a bill, House Bill 1013, this last session, that will allow rural property owners to host one RV as transitional housing at their property moving forward. We're going to have to do, we're going to have to pass local regulations before that is an option. But I do think that there are people in our community who know, you know, not just anybody, but they know a person who is currently homeless, who they would be willing to host and support, you know, getting back on their feet. And this is going to be an opportunity to do that.
That's good. Just the initial sound of that is like, well, okay, that's going to be rural people get help. It's the city of Bend that's drawing the homeless in. I have to kind of say that most of the homeless people I have seen around, I work at night, I'm out at the grocery stores and stuff. They're not wanting, okay, these people are not on the edge of home ownership. They're not this far from making it out of the pit of homelessness. They're there for a reason. So we need to encourage the city of Bend to manage the problem that they're also creating with all the resources and the help that they're saying they're providing, which is just giving the homeless money and resources and things and stuff, drawing them in. City of Bend needs to also take care of that instead of just putting it out. Oh, you need a homeless camp in the county area.
Yeah, the city has explored something like this already. I think, and I'm sorry, I don't know the details, but I know that the safe parking program that the city has was one of the products, you know, of exploring those opportunities.
Right. Okay.
Robert, there was actually someone at church on Sunday that is homeless. I happened to meet her and she has a bicycle. She doesn't want to leave Sisters because I said, gosh, I could find you, you know, a bed at the Bethlehem Inn. Anyway, it ends up, she's already gotten a job. She's already working. And I have called friends that live in the city of Sisters because her job is in Sisters. But, and I checked in the Nugget, tried to find some housing for her, you know, calling friends and they're praying that we can find something. But, you know, yeah, we need somebody that is comfortable stepping up for that person.
Can we encourage citizens and residents of Deschutes County by offering a property tax credit? That way, a percentage of what my property tax would be. That way I'll get something because it's going to cost me. I'm going to take some risk. And then the county is buying into it too. They're getting skin in the game, but they're not spending, you know, $60,000, $100,000, $1 million here and there, giving the money away somewhere. The people that are doing the work can actually receive the benefit of that.
That sounds like another whole project, but thank you for your testimony today.
Larger conversation.
Okay, so this will be the last request to speak in the room. We're going to go to online, and then if anybody else wants to speak in the room, you can fill out a blue form also. Jennifer Lingard.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Lingard. I feel like this is, can you guys hear me? Okay, my name is Jennifer Lingard and I live in Bend, and this is a passionate issue for me. I was a homeless single teenage mother. I know what it's like to be homeless, and so I truly care, but I'm also a problem solver. And I have some corporate experience, and I have worked through back channels to create some programs, and hopefully we have a wonderful summer in terms of decreasing homelessness. With that, we do have other data sets beyond the PIT count. There's Built for Zero. It's been vetted for about 2 years. City Council has a report from September 2022 from Built for Zero, said there was about 800 homeless in Deschutes County versus 6 months before that was 1,200. So the other piece to this is services are barely going out there in Dirt World and Fishbowl because it's too far out. It's too widespread. So if we can have some more containment, we can help people. But right now they're out there and it's chaotic. I am pushing for a legal battle versus the entire community battling. The entire community, our county is battling this. It's better to have a legal battle than the entire county blowing up or burning down. So I am pushing for a legal battle versus the deaths and murders. I am pushing for a legal battle versus the rapes. I am pushing for a legal battle versus the man who got killed by 3 dogs last night. I am pushing for a legal battle versus the April 2022, I'm passionate, excuse me. The April 22 sewer station that that was caused by a homeless camper with his propane tank. And we were 5 minutes away from Deschutes River being polluted for years. I am pushing for a legal battle versus the August 2020 homeless fire, that wildfire, nearly minutes away from blowing up the chemical plant. That would be a tri-county meltdown, not Deschutes County, tri-county meltdown of pesticides. I am pushing for a legal battle versus China Hat Forest burning down with my neighbors burning down with it. I am pushing for the also Phil's Trail, the federal forest, to make sure they don't burn down. I am pushing for the Juniper Ridge forest to not burn down so people don't burn down. Okay, I am pushing for a legal battle, and that means strong legal codes. I'm looking at the Dave Doyle. Strong legal codes to get people where they need to go so our county doesn't blow up. You don't want that on your shoulders, to have the county burn down under your watch and your management and your control. I'm pushing for a legal battle.
Thank you very much. With this time, is there anyone with a raised hand feature online? So yeah, we're going to work through raise hand features, people with raised hands online, 3-minute testimony. Thank you very much for joining us. Please state your name and address.
Hi there. Sorry.
Sarah.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Sarah Ladwig, and our address is 60320 Sagestone Loop. We live in Bend, and I am going to keep this short because we are in support of the camping ban, along with the majority of other people who spoke before us. And we are grateful for their testimony. And we keep coming back in our house when we're talking about this to the concern over lawsuits that we might be up against if we impose a camping ban. But has anyone thought about what's going to happen if, God forbid, there's a loss of property or loss of life to people in neighborhoods, to a wife who's home alone, to kids who are playing in the backyard? Listen, the county, the city of Bend, and the Forest Service will be sued into oblivion if something happens. So this notion that we can't afford to have a legal battle is baloney. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. And I also we genuinely appreciate that you guys are willing to have a discourse with the people who are coming up to speak. That is great to have some back and forth so we can get some questions answered in the moment. So thank you all for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
So it looks like Chris Hardy will be next.
Hi, my name is Chris Hardy. My address is 20353 Penn Hollow Lane. I've been a Bend resident for almost 19 years. I just want to say that I support the sheriff and what he is trying to do. I support a lot of these community members and what they're trying to do. And I support these people that are trying to help our homeless population. But I'm big on accountability. And that's not just for myself, my family, my friends. There's also for the elected officials, and it's for the homeless people that are out there as well. I believe that we can help, but I also believe that if somebody doesn't want to help themselves, then there needs to be actions taken. So once again, thank you for taking time to hear us, to listen, and hopefully to act on our behalf and the behalf of all the people in our community.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Linda Muir. Microphone.
You're on mute.
Yep,
Thank you. Got it.
here we go.
Thank you so much, commissioners, for giving us the opportunity to be able to speak to you today on this very difficult very difficult conversation. I wanted to give some reference to some of the points that have been made by people in the room regarding the people who are living homeless in Deschutes County. I personally have spent dozens of hours working in the encampments, meeting close to 100 homeless people in our county, having personal conversations with them, finding out what their barriers are, finding out what their needs are. And I can tell you without doubt that 70 to 80% of them that I've personally spoken to are not from here. They come in from other states. They tell us that point blank. They have no problem telling us that. I can also tell you, there was a gentleman in the room that said 80% of them have disabilities. Well, if you classify addiction as a disability, which I believe for the term that the local officials use, addiction is considered a disability. That's the majority of the addiction problems that we see in the encampments. There is mental illness for sure. That's happening. There are some medical disabilities as well, for sure. But the highest ratio of disability that we see in the encampments is addiction, drug and alcohol. So I want to set that record straight for the people who are in the audience who have not spent the time that I have spent in the encampments working with the homeless people, that's what we're facing. I want to go on record by saying I absolutely support Sheriff Nelson's camping ban. And I also support the enforcement of that ban in the Forest Service. There needs to be some type of arrangement with the Forest Service so that they can enforce the trespassing issues in our Forest Service lands. What's happening and being allowed to happen in China Hat by the Forest Service is absolute neglect. And the last caller who called in regarding the risk of lawsuit because of loss of life and property is immense. And if you all haven't been out there, and I know the commissioners have, but anybody else out there, take a drive up China Hat Road and take a look at the destruction that we're seeing out there. So I definitely support Sheriff Nelson's ban and some kind of arrangement with the Forest Service so that our neighbors who actually live housed out near China Hat and near Phil's Trails and other Forest Service lands can be protected as well. Thank you very much for your opportunity to speak.
Thank you for joining us. Is there anyone else? Okay, good. We got through that. If you're in the room, so there's still opportunity. You can just grab the,
Hi, I'm Allison Eilerman, 2520 Rippling River Court. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but when I heard that gentleman earlier talk about compassion, I wanted to say that compassion is helping people to get their life back on track, helping people to have a place where there are toilets, where there is garbage collection, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that is compassion, not allowing people to keep shooting up drugs and living under the circumstances that they're living under and pretending that that's compassion, because that is not compassion. And I also think we need to have compassion for the people that live in Bend. We choose to live our life the right way. We always have. We live by the letter of the law. And it's not okay to have people sleeping on the streets, shooting up in front of our children, and living the type of life that they're living. We need to help them, but they have to have some skin in the game. I have children. When I was raising them, well, let's put it this way. I have children. If they were on drugs, I would give them the opportunity to get off the drugs. And if they wouldn't get off the drugs, ultimately, I would have to say, I'm sorry, but you can no longer live here. You have to live life the right way. So again, I wasn't planning on speaking, but that's important for me to bring up this point of view. And I do support the sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see some more folks who have a blue page of Mr. Hemingway. Yes, please join us. So we've Been at this for an hour and a half. It hasn't been too bad here. We're winding down, but it's still available for public testimony.
I can be quick. My name is Chuck Hemingway. I live in the county, 59939 Minnetonka Circle in Deschutes River Woods. And I know Linda Muir. She's a great person, but the figures she cited are statistically insignificant. The correct figures are in the point in time count. If she were able to get out and do a survey of every single person out there, pretty much like the point in time count did, I believe it would clearly establish that there are 79%, if not more, people who have been here for 3 years or longer. The point in time count also established that about 49%, if I recall accurately, have been here more than 20 years. So it's an established population. It's unfortunate, but as I haven't read the proposal from the county council, the revised proposal, but as I had read the sheriff's initial proposal, I would be one of those who would not be in favor of it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
So next is Sandy Baxter. So while Sandy's coming up, we'll acknowledge that there is an agenda request and staff report cover page, two items here, the sheriff's proposal, the code package provided by legal counsel, and a proposed policy to follow this up. So that's what's in this packet. I don't know that there's any copies on the front table right now. But we have, you can get it online is the other thing. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Sandy Baxter. I live at 60205 Woodside Loop, which is in Woodside Ranch. Our property abuts up to the Forest Service at milepost 2 on Giant Hat. So you know exactly where I'm headed here. This isn't like a lot of people where they're further in the city and are hearing about, it's in our face. We've had several fires already. One that didn't even get responded to because of the miscommunication from the Forest Service with dispatch. But this was a huge fire. No one responded to it. It was yards away from our house, feet away from our neighbor's house. And as all of you know, I've sent an email before about earlier this year. When I'm in my backyard, I hear gunshots. Now, people think that you are allowed to fire a gun in the forest, which is true, but not there, because you can't fire within 150 yards of a house or across a road or a campsite. So if that was truly followed, at least for 10 miles, you wouldn't be able to shoot a gun. And trust me, our neighbors, we don't call and the sheriff's office unless we hear it very loudly, like it's right there. So I hear this gunshot, and I also know the sheriff wants some description. So I go further out in my backyard off to the side of the property, and a bullet goes whizzing by me. And so I get on the phone, call 911. They're sending someone out. I'm trying to find some cover here. And then another bullet goes right beside me. And the sheriff's office was great. They responded, but the deputy called me and asked if I could get a description. And then it was no, because I'm hiding. And he says, well, I'm waiting for cover. Being an ex-officer, I would have done the same thing. But in the back of my mind as a resident, I'm thinking, we live this 24/7 and there's no cover for us. Now, the guy wasn't, or gal, I guess it should be, wasn't shooting directly at me. I don't even think they saw me. But like a lot of other people have said, there's people out there with they're on drugs or they have mental issues. We hear gunfire a lot out there. So it's not just about the fires, but we pay taxes. It can't everything be about people that are unwilling to take up on these services that are being offered to them. Those trailers that are right below our house, they have been there for years. And as you also know, I've been in contact, myself and my neighbors, with the Forest Service many, many, many times. They will not do a dang thing about it. Nothing. You are our only hope for having something done to protect us. And it's to protect them also. If there's a fire out there, it's not going to only take out our neighborhood, it's going to take out hundreds of homeless people. And that shouldn't be allowed. There would be no place for them to escape to. And trust me, if you haven't been out, I know at least 2 of you have been out to China Hat. I'm not sure about the other one. It's looking at Hummel Road. It's China Hat is like 10 times the length of Hummel Road with the same issues going on.
Minutes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And we've all been out there. So
Okay. I didn't know if you all had been. I didn't. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Sandy,
Thank
for
you.
coming in and testifying.
So as I say, this is a public hearing in this matter. The proposed words are in this agenda report. At this time, is there anyone else to speak in the room or online? So it's been a good discussion, a lot of energy and passion on this subject, obviously. A couple other thoughts. I think of, this homeless surge is an echo from COVID, and it's just one of the reference points. The fact that we were hands off for a little while, and then all of a sudden it just evolved kind of in our backyard and in our faces. And now we're really dealing with a different dynamic. And COVID also prompted people to leave bigger cities, move to more rural, bucolic places, pay cash for a house and displace. So all the rents and costs went up. Also, we have a fentanyl opioid crisis that's been evolving for many years, but fentanyl is serious business. People are getting stuck in that trap quickly right now. So a lot of moving parts in this. I do support, and I want to, get the sheriff aligned with the federal government. And that's why I've been talking to the senator's office. Let's get some clarity on this. If we can have joint jurisdiction, we can do some action at the point of town. But action does need to happen. So I don't have the answer right now today, but we're working towards something. Any other thoughts?
I'd just like to say, for anyone who's skeptical, I understand very clearly that we need to do something. We need to do something that will be effective, and we need to do something that is legally defensible. You pass a code that will not stand up in court, and someone brings you to court and they file an injunction, you can't use your code. You can't enforce it. So we need to do things that are both going to be effective and enforceable. And we need to do, and a camping code is not it. A camping code is a piece of a comprehensive approach. You look at the communities that have actually made a difference, made a huge dent in their homeless populations, places like Houston, Texas, places like Hennepin County, Minnesota. They didn't do that with an anti-camping code. They did that with adequate facilities, adequate services, adequate pathways out of homelessness for people. And then you have an a camping code or something like that, so that the people who didn't eagerly, willingly take the pathway to some place where they can safely sleep at night, so that you can let law enforcement deal with those people. If you wanted to fill out a blue sheet, you are welcome to fill out a blue sheet. So we need to do something effective. We need to do something that is legally defensible. We need to work at these problems in a comprehensive way. Jonna Polish, she said, if you pass that first part, which is the part that the county, clearly is able to do, and you can't do the second part because it's really legally problematic, it's going to make more people come to China Hat Road. And that is what we have seen over the last 5 years, as people have been swept out of 2nd Street, all sorts of locations within the city of Bend, county property, state property. They are going to the place that has essentially the least amount of harassment. It's sort of this gray area, because we are not allowed to do stuff on federal land unless the federal government asks us to. The goal of basically eliminating homeless camping within a mile of the urban growth boundary, I am 100% with you. But a camping ordinance is not the way we're going to accomplish that. So I ask for everyone to kind of pull up to the 90,000 foot level, which I know is really hard when you're dealing with illegal fires or gunshots or other things in, very close to your house. But if we do the wrong things, if we don't do the things that are effective and are legally defensible, we are either just going to make the problem worse, or we're just going to move it to somewhere else in the county, and we're going to get stuck in court, and we may have to pay millions and millions of dollars. One data point I want to throw out for people when we're talking about, I want us to have that legal fight. The city of Boise, that took this all the way to the Supreme Court. The city of Boise had to, my understanding is that the city of Boise had to pay $2 million just to the attorneys, the opposing attorneys who beat them in court. That doesn't take into account any of the other legal costs associated with Boise versus Martin. And I cannot justify that kind of cost for the people of Deschutes County for a camping ordinance or a camping code that we can't even use. So, thanks.
Okay, well, at this time, as I say, we're closing up a public hearing, not to make a decision today. Any other thoughts, Commissioner Dare?
Well, I did want to mention that we heard about this point in time count, and I asked everybody that I thought would have an answer for the point in time count from China Hat, and nobody honestly could give me that number. So I can understand your frustration. If I would have known when I drove around February 2nd, I would have known, I was told not to leave the vehicle, but I would have definitely tried to count the people, because what is the real count out there today? The number's been mentioned up to 500. That is overwhelming for your community. And I really hope that the federal government is listening to us today. We have to do something. I hope the governor is listening to us today. We've got to open a managed sanction camp, and yet probably it has to be on EFU land. And so, of course, that's going to increase our exposure. But it's really the best thing to do for this situation, because we have people that won't go to Bethlehem Inn, they won't go to the Navigation Center, but perhaps they will go to a managed camp. And if they won't go there, then as someone earlier mentioned, perhaps law enforcement could talk to them at that point in time. But the drugs, the mental illness, it's like, is this a perfect? It's not a perfect situation. It's just like, it seems like it's getting worse and worse. And I so worry, not legally, but I worry about our community, the people of Deschutes County. If we have that fire on that windy day, it's going to have horrific complications. And then just hearing about the bullets whizzing by people's heads. Sandy let us know a couple of months ago when that happened to her. We're on pins and needles, and we have to do something, but we actually need the support from the governor, and we need the support from the federal government, because we need that IGA so the sheriff can actually do something. I don't know if you were aware of the press release they just did. They just actually assigned a deputy to work China Hat from Deschutes County Sheriff. And I want to thank them for doing that. We need somebody out there every day. And I hope it's, because when that fire happened, a couple of weeks ago, and there was a miscommunication, we can't have that happen again. It took too many hours for a response to happen. So I thank the sheriff for having the foresight to add that position. And I do believe we have to do something. And I'm not really worried legally. Dave said managed camp. It's going to be more liability, but for the entire county, it's what we have to do. So maybe one, maybe two, whatever, but we've got to do something where people have rules and we will have results and you all can sleep at night again, because it's a horrible feeling when you are under the stress daily. And if we can help people, definitely, I've always been for helping people, but we need to help ourselves too.
Thank you very much. So let's acknowledge the process. So this is a proposed ordinance. And as I say, I'm not ready to deliberate today. There may be some concepts we want to fit in here a little bit, but an ordinance is a 90-day window unless passed by emergency by all of us, by the majority, which we may not have. And unanimous. So thank you. But as I say, an ordinance is what we're talking about here. And I would like to, make sure we schedule it up for a week or whenever from now. We'll look at the dates.
I mean, like the 26th, when everything
deliberation.
else is happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need
So
to
maybe-
do something sooner because we heard from so many people in our community today. I so appreciate you coming. I don't know if you remember, but in maybe July or August of 2021, I said, you guys need to come in and document what's going on in China Hat, and look how long you guys have been dealing with this problem. And it's way worse now. So I thank
a
you
week
for
from today-
not giving up on us.
Week from today is the 26th. Then we're not having a meeting on Monday or Wednesday the week after.
It's not even 3:00 yet this afternoon. I will just state that my position right now is I would be willing to support the county land specific code amendments that legal has brought to us. I would not be willing to support the sheriff's expanded camping ordinance or camping code amendments. If you want to move those forward, and you will need 90 days because I'm not going to vote,
Understood.
then you could go ahead and, to give people what they are asking for, you could do it this week and do it as a 2-to-1 vote and start the 90-day clock going.
So, thank you for that. As I say, 1 week from now, I'd like to deliberate concept of, we know that we need land. We would need to have a place for people as a part of this action for the county code. And then also if there was words associated with a buffer and action by the sheriff's office. So I want to do a little more homework on this. So I'll propose it next week. Next week, 1 week from today.
Excellent.
Okay, just making sure we're on the same page. Okay, so at this time. Go ahead. Is that going to work in our schedule? It's kind of exactly what I was
We'll make
looking
it
at.
work.
We're going to be busy.
Next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to fit it in there. Okay. Anything else for this topic? Seeing none, as I say, the public hearing is closed on this matter. Deliberations next week. This is the end of our scheduled items for the day. I do have one more note. The letter from the governor.
Commissioner, just for the public, so what the board has decided is to bring this back next Wednesday for deliberation. That agenda item will be, you'll see it on the county's website. It'll be posted Thursday or Friday. So you'll actually see the estimated time, but the board would like to deliberate next Wednesday, and that'll be posted on the county's website. Anything else?
And you can look up the package for today, which has the proposals that we're talking about. Okay, under other items, as I say, the governor's letter, next Wednesday is the MAC team meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'd like to send this letter to the MAC is what I'm letting the commissioners know, just because, as I say, Commissioner Chang, you mentioned that, the first item is making sure we're aligned with the multi-agency coordination group. And I'd just like to route it to them, and I could do it, as one commissioner, but I'm just letting that's where I'd like that group to look at it and review. First thing they say is coordinate with the MAC. Talked to the MAC chair, Tammy Vaney, and she said that, well, we're not doing anything with land outside the cities for RVs, so it probably isn't even under that scope of what the MAC is doing.
Yeah. What we were talking about was outdoor shelter and the emergency money that's available through the MAC does not cover outdoor shelter. So I think I would hate for us to waste a week of potential response time waiting waiting for the MAC to confirm that for us. I would rather us continue to work on all 4 or 5 of the questions. And if you want to confirm that information with the MAC next week, that's
well,
fine.
Think about with the situation here. The governor's office sent us this. The governor put the executive order into place.
And I'm meeting
And the
tomorrow
governor's asking
afternoon
us to
with
answer a
Taylor
question for
Smiley
her
Will,
domain here.
who's the directive on the letter. So
We
we'll
asked-
have a feedback by tomorrow afternoon.
And so then tomorrow, this Thursday, the coordinated homeless office is meeting. And
Right.
didn't we talk about having it routed through there? Because we're asking to answer existing shelter capacity and options within the UGB, which is not our domain. Didn't we ask for it to go to the coordinated homeless office? And now I don't see it on the agenda for tomorrow.
Staff drafted a response, but they haven't got it to the coordinated office yet.
Okay, so a response, so the content that we know for the coordinated office to look at, but that'd be another month from now.
We could also do it individually to the coordinated office board members.
Okay.
Is there any kind of an other items type
Are we adjourned now?
time, window during the coordinated homeless response office meeting times where it could be raised?
I'm sure it could be.
So that means here's
Commissioner
a
Adair,
letter we're asking you to
Is it
respond.
possible for you to alert the other members of the Crow governing board tomorrow about the governor's letter and explain to them what it is?
Sure, of course.
We're still not gonna have a response. So you just mentioned why wait for the MAC for a month or whatever, and now with the coordinated homeless office still isn't gonna respond for another month either. So just acknowledging we're not even moving on that letter. in response.
Well, I could scan it and send it to everybody tonight and have them please review it. And then that would probably be the best thing.
It's staff work putting together that information. So I mean, just making sure the governing board has seen it and that they understand that as one of the members of the Coordinated Homeless Response Office Governing Board, Deschutes County would like help from the Coordinated Homeless Response Office staff in assembling information, I think is something I would hope that you could get done at the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so good discussion, just laying that out there, kind of. Yeah, see what can happen at the meeting tomorrow in the afternoon. Is there anything else for this meeting? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.